Hello again, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of the Jim Cornette Experience. It's the SummerSlam Report. Roman's back and Solo's gonna be in trouble. Hey la, Roman's back. Ooh. And other stuff happened too. And you've heard him in the background joining me to talk about this and more. Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard podcast network, Mr. Co-host to you. He's everybody's BFF, bossy f***ing friend, the great Brian Last, everybody.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. I wouldn't call myself bossy. You, I guess, are the embodiment of a all-white girl vocal group of the 50s or 60s.
Oh, wait a minute. An all-white girl? I'm the embodiment of an all-white girl.
I said vocal group of the 50s or 60s.
There was a pause.
Well, I was putting my words together in proper form. We're in proper order here today. And of course...
Just let them flow. No. Just let them flow. Just scatter them out there to the winds, baby, like you're shooting craps in Vegas. Just fling those words out there. Hey, boxcars, big bennies. Oh, boy, here we are again. I'm going to tell you what. Just right now at the top of the program, I'm trying to be in a good mood, and you tickled my taint a little bit right before we went on the air. Well, I mean, in a verbal sense, you know, because we're far apart. We are now here at New Jersey and Kentucky, but it's actually, what is that the official, the way the restraining order came out? We've got to stay at least this far apart. It's about 700 miles, whatever. Anyway, I'm trying to be in a good mood because if you heard the drive-through that we did, that's probably been released before this show will be released because we've already done it, whereas we're just starting this one. I've had a run of stressful luck lately, and the estimate to drag this 30-ton former tree out of my goddamn backyard and do all of the other things that need to be done after the latest fucking catastrophe of Mother Nature has entered 5 figures. But there's some things, and I'm doing my pen again here today for you there. Just see, I'm going to put that down right now before you start complaining about that.
Snapping like a 1950s all-girl white vocal group.
with a playing with a pen cover.
Hey la, yeah, let's go.
Hey la. Anyway, we'll put the cover on that.
Doodah.
So, but other things in town are perplexing me. Before we talk about the wrestling, can we just branch off into everyday life for a minute here? Just Brian, just you and me and the nearly countless. I mean, I'm sure there's a number for y'all out there, the Cult of Cornette listeners, the people. But they're nearly countless. You could count them eventually. It'd take a while. But can we just talk about everyday life for a couple minutes? And not only is my life been stressful here, but also the news in Louisville, Kentucky, just weird things are happening. And it started with me the other day when in the midst of all of, actually yesterday, now that I come to think about it, it seems so long ago. Yesterday, all my troubles came piling down on top of my head like a big bunch of diarrhea from a giraffe. So in the middle of all of this and by the way, to let everybody know again, Stacy's mother's feeling better after her procedure. Stacy's feeling better after her dental surgery. Harley is feeling better after her bad allergy attack that gave the little baby the coughs this past week. Everybody's feeling better except me. I'm kind of constant. I never particularly feel that good or bad either way. But in the middle of all of the natural disasters and the other things that's been happening, I'd told this fellow that runs this handyman operation, to have him come over and paint the fence. It's been 5 years. The birds have shit on the fence, and the weed whackers have eaten it up at the bottom, and there's some peelage going on, and I just, fuck it, I wanted to spruce up the front fence. It ain't going to affect my standard of living At least it wasn't before this latest round of natural catastrophe. I said, paint the fence. I said, I'll get to paint. Because we're using all the same shade of brown around here. Brown, the front fence, the back fence, the house paint, where indeed it is painted brown. It's all the same shade. So it gives us some consistency here. I like consistency. And so since I have not had the chance to, and they're coming this week, allegedly, I just figure I'll go right over here to Sherwin-Williams. You've heard of Sherwin-Williams, right? He covers the world with paint.
He's up here in the Northeast, yes.
Well, he's everywhere.
I don't know where he is. I can just verify he's here.
Well, he gets around. I'm telling you. You see, people all over the world, I'm sure, will recognize, because that is what used to be their slogan when I was a kid. We cover the world with paint. It's a bucket of paints being poured over the fucking world. So Sherwin-Williams, and it's the Sherwin-Williams color in their little color fucking thing that they give out that so I go to the Sherwin-Williams store that's 2 miles over here from my palatial estate that's falling down around my ears, just to buy 5 gallons of fucking paint from Sherwin-Williams. I didn't think that was too much to ask. And not even take a bucket of the paint. And even though, and this is a loophole that will come into play later, the last time that I got something painted around here, the people were painted, they bought the paint at Lowe's. But it's Sherwin-Williams, goddamn, the color, and it has it on the barcode thing on it. So I take the whole bucket. I say, hey, I walk into the store, and here comes Sherwin. Walks up to greet me. Good morning, good morning. I'd like to buy 5 gallons of paint. Right here of this kind. And he looks at it, he said, well, we don't have that kind. I said, well, it's your color. He said, yes. I said, well, we got this from Lowe's, but since it's your color, just give me the same kind of thing. And instead of the Lowe's, what is this, Coke and Pepsi? I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm not an experienced paint purchaser, Brian. So I don't really, I'm just asking. I've walked into Sherwin-Williams' store, and I'm talking to Sherwin, and I want some paint in his color, one of his colors.
Well, he's not Sherwin. It's just you're calling anyone who works there.
No, he did. No, he had it right on his goddamn shirt. He had his name on his shirt, Sherwin-Williams. So I'm talking to him. He happened to be in that day. It was actually convenient for me. I could talk to the boss. Anyway, I said, give me 5 gallons of whatever you have that's like that. Well, we don't have anything like that. I said, you're Sherwin-Williams. This is your, what? Well, he said, well, see, they got this at Lowe's, and we have a collaborative effort with Lowe's to provide them with these colors. But then basically he tells me, I don't have any paint that good. I only have paint that'll take 2 coats. This is paint where it take 1 coat. This is I told him I want the big, heavy-duty, top-of-the-line, outdoor exterior paint, whatever the fuck. And apparently, they don't have the top-of-the-line, outdoor, exterior, whatever the fuck paint. They got paint that's only middle of the line, and you got to paint it twice. And I said to him, but Sherwin, you're Sherwin fucking Williams. You're telling me that Lowe's has better quality paint than you do. And he kind of stood there and humming it. I said, Jesus fucking Christ. So I came back home because Lowe's is too far. But what has the world come to when Sherwin fucking Williams, the best shit they got is middle grade? I ask you.
Who owns it now? Is it the same owners that had it 40 years ago? Or is it some
I assume
fund that bought it, loaded it with debt, and now they got nothing?
No, he didn't look like that old of a fucking guy. Yeah, I'm sure but the point
is, of nothing.
Again, he had Sherwin-Williams on his shirt, so I'm blaming Sherwin-Williams. But if you want paint that you can't see through, apparently you need to go to Lowe's instead of, or any place else, I guess, instead of Sherwin fucking Williams. Just a word to the wise out there if you're thinking about painting anything. Don't talk to Sherwin.
Was this unique to this one store? They don't carry what you're looking for.
I don't know.
System-wide.
They have a big sign over their goddamn store that's in this little, what do they call it? A mall or strip mall of stores side by side. Well, not a shopping mall.
What do they call those things in town? A mall?
No, the strip mall.
A strip
the stores
mall?
Are you pull in the parking lot and the stores are side by side and there's a whole row of them. There's like 8 or 10 in a row. It's if that's a shopping center or a strip mall area or a place of business or whatever, they're in one of those stores. They got a big sign over their front door. It says Sherwin-Williams. It lights up in the dark. I'll have you know, I've seen it. And when you walk in, there's all kinds of paint cans and a bunch of fucking colors of shit on the wall that you can pick out from. That to me indicates that they should be open for business with everything they fucking got, or they shouldn't tease us and tantalize us. Joe, no, we just got the rotten shit here. You'll have to go over to fucking Bardstown to get the good shit. What the?
Well, the other thing is they are in business. So does this?
Just barely.
Does this mean that
I was the only one in there when I walked in?
Does this mean that no one is asking for this kind of paint except you?
Apparently, but it's not. I didn't ask for any kind of goddamn paint concocted overseas with a special gold lining and sent here on fucking eagle's wings. I said, give me the best quality that when I bought this paint that I've been using. And when the people painting things bought the paint that I've been using, I said, get the best quality, longest lasting outdoor paint that you'd paint siding or a fucking fence with. And that's what they got. And apparently Sherwin-Williams, this big noted paint fucking guy. I'm just telling you, Sherwin, I'm letting people know about this.
What kind of name is Sherwin?
Yeah. What was his mother had a lisp and she couldn't pronounce Sherman?
That wasn't what I was thinking, but that could be an option. That could be
hello, Sherwin. Maybe she, as Mama Cornette, you say she was hair-lipped. Anyway, here's another thing that I heard about happened here in Louisville, Kentucky, Brian, and I just wanted to let the people know about. This was the greatest thing I've ever seen on the local news a couple days ago. Actually made me giggle in my moments of trials and tribulations. There is a pediatrician in this town and they showed the outside of her clinic, and it was like a Kids R Us, Toys R Us kind of thing. Toys R Us kind of writing on the kids' clinic or whatever the name of it was.
Well, Kids R Us was a thing too. That was like a kids' clothing store.
Okay, well, maybe I've seen it, but the point is, the kind of kiddie type writing across the front, hello, kids' clinic or whatever, or the name of their place, and it looked it could have passed for a daycare center, right? They're really catering to the children. I guess you could be a pediatrician and treat people up to the age of 16 or 18 but they're going for the younger audience at this clinic. It looked like from their front door, right? And this pediatrician, and I saw the initial start of this case, but now it's been resolved, we think, but this pediatrician was just sent to prison. This woman looks like she's in her 40s, I guess, for hiring a hitman to kill her husband while she was operating at or working at or part of this fucking kids' medical clinic. And the way that this unfolded was that people started noticing that something was awry when she started asking people she worked with at the medical clinic if they knew anybody that might be able to kill her husband for her.
Just out in the open.
That raised the first suspicion.
Hey, I was thinking, if you could pass those fries. Do you know anyone that could kill my husband? Like, how do you ask multiple people that?
But the report, she began asking people that she worked, hey, anybody that might be able to kill my husband for me? And they're like, no, we really don't know anything about that. And so then apparently, now with that the whole thing has come out and then they've had the court case and trial and the whole 9 yards, apparently then she started looking online. There was some mention of she was looking for a witch doctor that could cast a death spell on. So she's like making up code at first, maybe.
So she's obviously a genius.
But then she finally finds somebody and say, yeah, I'll do it for like $7,500, I think. So again, your deal, because I would think you'd need to pay a significant amount more to have a really professional operation come in and take care of it. But she made up some more code language to get this guy to. But this guy, because of apparently the noise that she had made already, this guy that agreed to do it turned out to be an FBI informant. He said, yeah, I'll do it, lady. Let's work this out. And she works it out with the fucking FBI informant to hire him to kill her husband. And then they hauled her into the Crossbar Hotel, as Bill Watts used to say, and put a case together against her. And they've gone to trial, and she was said, I think the sentence was 12 years or whatever. But at least the story has somewhat of a happy ending, because, Brian, guess what the first thing she did when she got in jail was?
I don't know.
She started asking her other inmates if they knew anybody who could kill her husband for her.
Stop it. Come on.
They reported this on the goddamn local news.
That's amazing.
So her husband's still a little nervous, even with her in jail for 12 years.
Nervous, and you can understand why, but can you also imagine how bad it must hurt? It's not just your wife wanted you dead. The cops come, they talk to you, they tell you what's going on. And how much did she offer to pay them? $100,000?
Yeah.
No. $50,000? No. Did she offer him jewelry or anything from the kitchen? No. $7,500. $7,500.
Well, see, it's all his fault. He should have been more successful and given her a bigger household budget. But anyway, so...
Hey, nice to meet you. You don't know how to kill my husband.
Yeah.
So when she gets to prison, it doesn't stop?
And they had her lawyer was on camera, right? They asked, does this... I can't remember what the woman said, but does this woman, Dr. Chaos here, do you think she needs some type of counseling or, psychological evaluation, whatever, some work done here? And the guy says, oh, yeah, I think that, yes, after everything that she's been through with this arrest and trial and what she's looking at in the Fiesta, she definitely needs some overlooking she apparently didn't need any when she was asking everybody in town if they knew anybody would kill her husband for her.
How you doing, Susie? Just can't find a good hitman these days. You know anyone?
Fred never asked for a second cup of coffee. Would you like to put a bullet in his brain?
There's some crazy people out there.
And one more thing I got to bring you up to date on. It's a sad update. And it's just a quick little story here that you can't even rest in peace anymore. Yeah, Brian, when I bring up the name Denny Crum, you know who I'm talking about. We've talked about him many times.
Yes.
You just can't elaborate on who. I'll tell everybody who he is again, in case you've forgotten. A Hall of Fame basketball coach with the University of Louisville for 30 years, one of the winningest coaches of all time, protege of the legendary John Wooden at UCLA, a beloved, probably the most popular man in the city of Louisville throughout his life and over his retirement through the last 20 whatever fucking years, passed away last year. We talked about it. And now they just did an update, a news story again. They went to the cemetery, and they're down the row and to the left from the monument. That's what the rich and famous folks call a tombstone, but the monument of Muhammad Ali, and across the field, as they might say, from Colonel Harlan Sanders, in a dignified place of honor in Louisville, Kentucky, is Denny Crum, and he's got a big hole with concrete filled in it and nothing on top of it. Guess where Denny Crum's tombstone is?
I don't know. We talked about this a while ago. We talked about him.
No, we talked about him passing away, but guess where his tombstone is? We know where Denny is. He's the same place he's been for quite a while now. Probably not really going to be a world traveler from this point, but guess where his tombstone is?
I have no idea.
At the bottom of the Red Sea.
That was going to be my second guess.
At the bottom of the Red Sea. And what apparently, and I know this to be true because same for my mom and dad's that I had made, the kind of marble that then the way they decorate it, blah, 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 they do these things overseas. And I don't recall, I think his was coming from India. I don't know, I can't remember now. But I don't think that ours came from India, but it's the same principle. On the boat, because I guess you can't really airmail a goddamn, marble, granite, fucking several ton item. On the boat over here, it got involved in, I think, the Hamas war, the terrorism, potentially pirates, who knows what's going on. And the ship was sunk and the fucking thing's at the bottom of the Red Sea. And now they're working on a replacement. But
it's gonna really fuck up the archaeologists in like 2,000 years when they find that, but no body.
Well, they're gonna think, oh my God, how did they get him down here?
What century could this have been from? When did they do this?
He obviously was one of the Greek gods,
one of the sea people that we've heard about.
Yes, Neptune and Denny Crum. But
Denny Crum of Atlantis, we salute you.
But no, it's ironic because the U of L colors are red, because the Louisville Cardinals are red, because Cardinals, the birds, are red, and he was the coach of a red team for all those years, and now he's at he's not, but his monument is at the bottom of the Red Sea.
What kind of monument was he getting that they had to ship it from over there?
Well, that's what it's. I mean, it's not like it's a goddamn giant, monolith you're thinking about. But no, when you do the nice tombstones, as we regular folks used to call them, but still they weigh a couple of tons if you have like a double header, and they have better marbles and materials and engraving, and they can do things over there, and they can do them in it more inexpensively. And so many of these monuments come from various places other than the United States. Have you ever seen some guy in Cleveland doing quality work on a tombstone?
I don't know. On Long Island, we had the fine people at Sprung Monuments.
Sprung?
Sprung. They went to school with my father. Stephen Sprung went to school with my father, so that's how I know them. Very nice people, though. Took care of multiple dead relatives of mine.
There is
Stones arrived on time. No pirates. That's the Sprung way.
But there's some line involving getting sprung from a cemetery that I can't think of right now. But was you know what? God dang it, sprung. I'll go with it. How about be hung with sprung? No, that wouldn't work because that's the method.
Why?
Well, that's the method of execution. So that if you would be more planted, you'd be buried with Harry's. Well, nevertheless,
that's again. Well, let's just clarify from our good friends at Harry's. This has nothing to do with them.
No, it's a completely different Harry, unless he, decided to diversify and We can't ever blame these big business typhoons for spreading out.
Do you think when Harry from Harry's is buried, like, it has to be well kept? The plot, right? Like, they can't let anything grow. I mean, that would be just...
not lost like we have. Lost the plot.
What is this, your show? This is your show.
Yeah.
That means it's your fault.
That's some things that have been going on, ladies. Oh, I would like to say happy birthday on August 7th to William. And see, I don't know how to I don't want to insult him and mispronunciate his last name on his birthday, but it's Nino. Would that be Nino, or would that have to be the Nino, like El Nino?
Nino.
Well, no, that sounds like Minnow. Seems like there'd be a W at the end somewhere.
The Mets have a great player, Brandon Nimmo. It's Nimmo.
Well, no, this is Nino.
Oh.
Not Mimo.
I thought you said there were two N's.
No, there's two. Well, yes, there's two N's. What are you saying in New Jersey-ish?
What are you saying? You just changed the spelling of the word.
No, Nino. Nino?
Okay, but there's not two in a row. That would be Nino. You're right.
Oh, you thought two N's in a row. I thought you said two M's because you have that accent.
No, this accent.
I thought you were saying Nimmo.
That's what I did say.
Nimmo?
I said the Mets have an outfielder named Nimmo. Why am I yelling at you? They have an outfielder named Nimmo, and you're going to like that.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't make any sense because that would be M's in there instead of N's. But this guy has a birthday on August the 7th, William Nino, and apparently he's a customer at Cornette's Collectibles, but his wife, Melissa, apparently did some kind of favors, I don't know, for Hotchkiss. And that's how I'm
let's not put it that way.
Alerted to.
Let's not put it that way.
Well, that's how I'm alerted to mention this. Is that, there was some correspondence between Hotchkiss and this lady, while there were some transactions going on with Cornette's Collectibles. And in the process, I get a note, hey, wish happy birthday on August 7th to William Nino.
So he won't know about me and Hotchkiss at the Super 8?
Well, no, what, you and Hotchkiss? Or what are you saying?
I'm saying, is that what she's saying? Is she throwing
you?
You're making it sound like she's having an affair with Hotchkiss.
No, they closed the Super 8, is what I'm saying to you.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
I didn't know what you were talking about.
I'm a fool. I didn't realize.
It's been gone a long time.
All right.
Now it's the old log inn. It's a fucking woodsy resort type of area.
If you were going to open up if someone said, Jim Cornette, you've missed your calling, we're going to help fix that. We want you to plan a national hotel chain. What are the most important qualities to have?
Well, I think...
And it has to be affordable. It can't be just like, for the rich people like you.
Well, no, oh, come on now.
The ritzy-titsy Cornettes rolling into town. Hey, where's the valet? Hey.
Oh, shut up. Now, I have many times ranted and raved about the ritzy-titsy hotels, and I don't want to walk miles through stores and shopping areas and restaurants to get to my room. I don't want everybody trying to help me carry my shit and wheel my shit and fondle my shit and get a tip for it. I want to be able to park in the parking lot, go through the side door, get to my room and sleep in peace and comfort. So don't try to don't try to pawn that type of talk off on the people out there. But I think you stick with...
Your middle name is Waldorf.
No, well, not many people know that. You stick with the Carlin concept of just have the motel that has the sign that says sleep, fuck, sleep, fuck, sleep and fuck.
That would be your hotel? I didn't know it was going to go down this road. I should have.
But just you need a comfy bed and a quiet room and people minding their own business at the front desk. And it's good to have you asked about it's good to have a restaurant and you don't have to have a 4-star restaurant, but something that will give people the basics in the lobby there, and a little room service certain hours, and cleanliness and security and nice bathrooms and good cable.
What about a hotel where you could skip the front desk? Some kind of way you could check in before you get there. And I guess they could check out.
They have all of that shit now. They send you emails. Oh, you can check in with your fucking, blow it out your ass. When I show up at the hotel, I go to the front desk and I announce my arrival. Hello, I am the person that has a reservation, and I am here to claim it. I will be staying with you people for a approximate period of such and such. And I will be no trouble if you are no trouble to me. Good day to you. No, I want you check in. It's part of the process. And you get a feel for it. Do these people know what the fuck they're doing here? Do they have their shit together? And then they know you're here on their property. And I've assessed whether or not that I might be able to come to them if I do have any questions, or if they're just going to be as dumb as a box of rocks. And then we go from there. And I do sometimes pick their brains, no matter how microscopic they may be, on, back in the old days, places that I wanted to call it delivered food late at night, and or directions to wherever the fuck I was going, and how bad the traffic would be. Things of that general nature. And then it's a business transaction, and you're pleasant to them, and they're pleasant to you. They better be. And then you go on your way. So, no, I don't want to just walk. I'd feel like I was breaking and entering if I just walked into a goddamn place and just suddenly went into a room automatically.
All right, well, this is your show today, and it sucks.
Well, hey, that's because you've been asking all the questions.
Hey, don't blame me.
I was trying to bring you up to date on some things going on. All right, before we talk about Smackdown, which was basically the 2-hour promotional video for SummerSlam, and then SummerSlam itself, I think we should mention this. I've had a trying week, and Brian shamed me because he was prepared. I was not. We were going to talk about both biographies from last weekend. Hard week, folks. Ted DiBiase and Paul E. Danger Heyman. But because I could watch DiBiase while distracted, but I wanted to give Heyman some attention. I know those words sound odd coming from me. I didn't get to watch it at all. So we're going to catch up with Paul Heyman in depth. We're going to go inside Paul Heyman deep. His biography on A&E, on AEW, whatever the fuck, on your show this week. So you can take credit for it.
Oh, boy.
But, well, it's been a trying week, you know. For heaven's sake, sometimes...
I had a very action-packed, exciting week. Production's a little bit behind schedule because I got the witness firsthand. I said it before. Stephen Pinu, the left, the right, the uppercut. I got to see it all for 7 hours.
He even used the bolo punch. I found that's almost when you're taunting your opponent, is when you just wind up and use the old bolo punch.
We'll be talking about this more in the future once we get some legal clearance on it, but I have to say, Stephen certainly showed the person he was talking to hard times. And he made sure that these hard times were explained thoroughly. There'll be more to come.
In granular detail, individual A, as he shall be known, understands now that it would have been just so much easier not to do the thing that he did. But anyway, that's what I'm saying to you, Brian. And did you ever want to? Were you ever? I will ask this question in English.
That'd be
helpful.
You? Yeah.
Well, see, if you, we'd have a nice conversation if you wouldn't interrupt me. Did you ever? Just when you were sitting someplace and you were in a situation, did you ever want to disappear, be somewhere else, stay more private, away from the intruding outside world, and just feel like you were protected all around you with a cone of silence, a bubble of anonymity. Did you ever feel that way, Brian Last?
I mean, not really. I'm pretty good at just hiding in public as it is.
Well, if you ever did, like all the rest of us, want to just vanish and stay private and not have people spying on you and sperming on you and worming their way into your life.
Showing up on your front door from Virginia Beach.
Showing up on your front door from Virginia Beach. Well, that's why you need to talk to our friends at ExpressVPN.com. You see where I'm going with this now, don't you, Brian? Because that's the place that you go to if you don't want prying eyes and spying eyes and lying eyes all over your business and what you're doing online, on the websites, on the Googles, on the social media thingies that they have there. It's all connected, Brian. You know the whole world's connected now. And somebody's going to pull the plug on this thing sooner or later. We'll all be screwed. So you need to be protected, because then your public identity and your personal activities on the interwebs will just come pouring out of people's computers like goddamn slot machines. And
what?
Suddenly
that's what you think pulling the plug is?
Well, so when something happens where they're going to hack this whole thing, and then it's going to just all fall apart, right?
Right.
And then everything that you do will just go to other people's computers, and it'll just, and so look, now there's little Pismo Clam in San Luis Obispo, California. Well, come to find out, he's been visiting Dalmatian porn sites for the last 6 months. And boom, there goes your right to own a dog.
Yeah, maybe more than that. What are you talking about exactly?
I'm talking about you get ExpressVPN, and they will protect your identity and your activity on the interwebs so that people, your internet service providers, cannot see what you're doing, don't know where you are, can't pinpoint you. These people can't watch you. I was watched one time, Brian. But thankfully, I had downloaded ExpressVPN because it's easy. You fire up the app and you click one button and you're protected. And this was back in the 80s when I was on the road all the time. This guy was following me around at my hotel. Every time I would go down a hallway, he'd turn and come down that same hallway. And then I'd turn somewhere else and he'd turn around the corner and he'd follow me. Well, luckily, I had downloaded ExpressVPN on that handheld Tetris game that I used to carry around in the 80s. And I programmed it to think that I was in Bolivia. And then as that guy came around the corner, I hit start and I threw it to him and he caught it and boom, they vanished. He went to Bolivia. And he couldn't attack me and hit me over the head with a hammer and steal my money or whatever he was going to do because I sent him to Bolivia. I never did get my Tetris game back. But ExpressVPN can send you other places around the world. It reroutes 100% of your traffic through secure encrypted servers so the folks watching can't see your browsing history. And it makes it difficult for third parties to track your online activity. Because after all, these third parties trying to track you online, generally their feelings are hurt because you didn't ask them back for a second time, these third parties. And then they're starting trying to track you. But they're also ExpressVPN rated #1 by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. And Brian, of course, if you're on the verge of greatness, you're on the verge. And that's what ExpressVPN is all about here, is making you invisible to these spies around the world. You don't want people watching you while you're using the bathroom, or you don't want people peeking in the window while you're fiddling with your diddly. Well, it's the same thing if they're keeping track of you through of course, we all know the internet service provider have the folks inside your walls.
No, we
Behind
don't.
those plugs lie spying eyes.
There's a lie there. That's certainly true. There's no one behind your walls. There's no ISPs behind your walls, but perhaps you want to be able to access content that is country restricted, that is legal, that is perfectly fine to watch. It's just there's some kind of issue that the rights holders can't get around. You can get around it with ExpressVPN.
You can do what others can't. That's what you're saying.
What others can't. Like, explain this.
Well, you can't get around it. It's so high you can't get over it. And so wide you can't get around it, but you can get low enough to go under it. That's what you're saying here? Well, get low, folks. Go as low as you can go with ExpressVPN. You'll be under the radar, as they say. That's why you're down under the ground.
Mighty low.
You're mighty low. If you go right now to expressvpn.com/JCE, you can get an extra 3 months of this incredible protection for free. It's like wearing a condom around your entire body 24 hours a day.
It's not like that.
It's exactly like that because you will not.
It's not. No.
You will not be. It's awful suffocating, folks. But you will not be penetrated, nor inseminated, nor infecticated by any type of outside prying eyes and people keeping track of your internet whereabouts. You can just swim right into that dark stream, and the people will think you're in anywhere from Connecticut to Scandinavia. They won't know whether to wind their ass or scratch their watch about what you're up to on the internet. If you go to expressvpn.com/JCE, and you can get that 3 months free extra. An extra free months on top of did I say extra free months? An extra 3 months on top of for free on top of the months that you're already going to get when you buy some months. That's why they say extra. You're not just going to get 3 months free. You got to buy some months, and then you get some months. You want some? Come get some. expressvpn.com/JCE is what I'm talking about. Just so we got that out of the way.
All right. Well, that was what you were talking about. What are we going to talk about next?
All right. Well, thank you for just piping in with the goddamn...
Say pipe?
Oh, heavens. I didn't mean that you should pipe your organ in. I'm trying to...
There's an echo in here. Do you hear that? There's an echo that's not usually here. I will investigate.
Are you going to need a flashlight or a magnifying glass to investigate that? Can you you can put that off until later, can't you? Because I think we should go to before we talk about the activities of the WWE this weekend, let's talk about the biography of Mr. DiBiase, Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. You saw this program last week on the A&E network, did you not, Brian Lass?
I did. I saw it. I enjoyed it. He's a very pleasant man.
A very pleasant man.
He just seems very happy. And, if you don't mention any of the state scandals in Mississippi, he seems like a very well together, mentally together guy.
A well
not unlike me. Unlike this here, you. This is Biography, DiBiase, the $1 Million Ted.
Nouns and pronouns, adjectives. I'm not saying this to knock Ted. I was disappointed in it. Because I like Ted. That's why I was disappointed, because the main part of his career that I liked, that I just wanted to see maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes of footage or attention out of the hour given to, they completely skipped the fuck over. The period from 1981 to 1987, they kind of told it in that, he started in the old Mid-South, the McGurk territory, the Louisiana. He worked in Texas. Went to work for Vince in 1978, which I think it was 78, 79, had a run. Goes to Georgia or whatever, does something else, and Vince has an idea.
And then Vince met Bruce. That's what the documentary made it seem.
Well, and let's face it, Bruce had everybody's phone number, so technically That's but nevertheless, the period of time where they established that he was well thought of from the beginning and got some, early notoriety, and then completely skipped over when he was the best worker in the Mid-South Territory as a babyface and as a heel. The big run in Georgia, the UWF transition, and he was a major player at that point. Just everything that happened from the period of time where he really started getting over to where he became the $1 Million Man.
Yeah, man, it was a good story to tell there, even if you kind of wanted to minimize it. It could be, I returned to Mid-South as the biggest heel in the territory, and then you could show the angle with Flair and Murdoch and explain how that turned him into the biggest babyface in the territory. They didn't even show any of that. I mean, that's the one thing everyone thinks about with Mid-South. The stuff with the dog and the stuff with him and Murdoch. Or the match with him and Flair and the Murdoch incident, I should say.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not saying, I know that they only had 46 minutes plus commercials or whatever, so they couldn't focus on individual feuds or angles or what. They could have showed some highlights of that. But to skip over an entire 6-year period where they basically ended up with him, how did they phrase it, being passed by for the NWA title, which was back in 1981 again. And he was kind of upset. So, and then Vince called, 87, boom. His best years as Ted DiBiase, pre-$1 Million Man, were those, and that's kind of stuff I was just wanting to see on the national television. So that's why I was kind of disappointed, not in that Ted was not a great talent, or I don't just, didn't like the program. Although they give a lot to the preaching after his in-ring career was over with. So, but it was cool seeing the childhood pictures, because they raised the great point at the beginning of all the second generation talent, how many actually their mother and father were both wrestlers. And we get a Baby Doll, and help me, besides DiBiase here.
There's got to be a luchador or two that we're not thinking of. I don't know. That's a tough question. Mother and father.
We'll research it and get back to you if we come up with anything. And then both his mother and real father were in show business before that wrestling even became a thing. She was a dancer, and his father was a singer. But they got divorced when he was like 2 years old. They had some great old pictures there. And then Helen Hild, his mother, who worked in the 50s, and you see her name everywhere. She was a name female wrestler in that era that traveled almost all the territories. And she married Mike DiBiase, who was a big name, especially in Texas, and had been a AAU. The AAU was before the NCAA, correct? They predate that organization. But he had been a major collegiate shooter and then a name pro wrestler. Did he not hold the junior heavyweight title at some point?
I'm not sure. It sounds right. I know Ed Francis had the World Junior Heavyweight title in the 50s. I got to see what Mike DiBiase would have had.
Or it may have been regional, but nevertheless, they had some black and white footage of Iron Mike, and then tell the story. It was July of 1969. He had a heart attack after a match in Lubbock. And when he died, I think this was the best part. The highlight of the show was illustrating the relationship that Mike DiBiase had with Dory Funk Sr. and the Funk family, and what the Funks did for Ted as a result of their, they liked him also, but their respect for Mike DiBiase. Dory Sr.'s wife was the one who called Ted out in the hallway when they all came over to the house and told him what had happened to his father. And Terry is the one who brought his dad's ring bag back to him. So that was, Ted was only, I think, what he said, 14 or 15 at that point. So it wasn't like Ted was ever in the business. They just knew he was Mike DiBiase's son. And it was, it was moving to hear him tell that story.
But you could see just in that brief story being told here, and Terry Funk's own words telling it, why Terry was so revered by everyone who worked there.
Yeah.
Forget about everywhere else and fans like us. When people work for West Texas, they didn't come out of there complaining like, oh, the fucking promoter's kids. None of that. And Terry really did look after Ted DiBiase. Like, there was a genuineness beyond the craziness that every wrestler had that Terry Funk never lost. Thank you.
That's very profound. I was waiting for more. But yeah, that's, they had, thankfully, comments from Terry that they'd recorded, years ago, probably when he did the Hall of Fame thing or whatever. But talking about Ted, and Terry played an instrumental part in at certain points in his life, including getting him to New York and getting him to Georgia and et cetera, et cetera. But it was interesting that he had a pause Ted had a pause in his life where he moved to Arizona with his grandmother, and he wanted to play football in college, but he hadn't watched wrestling since his father had died, and now he's gone to college, so 3 or 4 years or whatever. And he saw one of the Funk shows from the TV from Amarillo, but they were bringing a house show to Tucson, so he went to visit and ended up switching, and instead of going to Arizona to play football, he went to West Texas State so he could eventually work for the Funks. So that was, you can tell they probably made an impression on him at night and gave him a good, I mean, I'm sure he wanted to do it to begin with, but they also probably gave him a good assurance that, yeah, this is the thing you need to do.
Again, he didn't have too many people in that kind of role. I'm not saying Terry Funk was a father figure. He was, maybe an older brother that could look after him. He knew he would be okay under the Funks in West Texas.
Well, and see, that's when Dory Sr. was still alive. Think about it, because Ted was already, he didn't go back to his last year of college, and he started in 1974, so he may even have talked to the old man himself there that night, because that would have been, 1972 or whatever. So he would have had, some of the most important and knowledgeable guys in the business, taking him under their wing, which is why he probably turned out to be, such a great worker, and he had the aptitude and he had the eye for it. And a lot of the guys that were either trained in West Texas or spent a lot of time in that system, from, the Tsuruta to Dick Murdoch to the guys that the Funks trained for on and off for Japan, or DiBiase here, they were all so fundamentally sound, as Gordon Soley might used to say, and they were just all around excellent workers who understood the flow of the fucking match. But anyway, that's, they tell that story up to that point, and then he debuts in Lubbock in 1974, the same town that his dad had died in. And then they sent him to work what was the McGurk territory. It wasn't Mid-South Wrestling.
Right, they called it Mid-South
at that point. But for the sake of, I can see why, for the sake of clarity for the average viewer, that they did that. But it was actually...
Still, come on. It's like if you work for Continental and you called it Smoky Mountain.
Well, but there you go. You got me there. But still, the point is, it was, and actually it wasn't really all Mid-South though yet, because they sent him to Louisiana and Mississippi and Arkansas, and he didn't have, and Oklahoma, he didn't have Houston yet, blah, blah, blah. But nevertheless, that's where Ted spent, if he went there, 75, spent, probably 8 of the next 12 years because he was so good at that. It was a territory where the baby faces and the heels need to have their shit together. And he was so good at both, first as a baby face, and he finally got to turn heel there and, learn from not only Watts, but all the Dusties and all the top guys that came through there. And that's why I would... Go ahead.
Between 76 and 86, how many wrestlers put more miles on their car than Ted DiBiase?
Oh, God. How many cars, I don't know, he had to have gone through in that point in time. And that's why he said it. He told me at one point when he was in Louisiana in 84, some of the later part of the year while we were still there. And you can see we were kind of dragging. And he said, hey, I was here one time for a year and a half. My hair started falling out and I hated the business. I had to get out of here for a while. But then he'd come back because the money and, you could not only make money there, but you could establish yourself as a top guy. And he was always considered a main eventer there. And if he left and he came back, he was right on top. But that period of time, then he was working St. Louis and, being brought in there, and his first run in the was it WWF still when he got there the first time, or had they switched to WWF?
I think it was still the extra W when he first got there.
And, you could tell that he was a little pale, and Ted was never a muscular man. He was like Bobby Eaton. He didn't have a lot of muscular definition, but his cardio was through the roof. But you could tell he didn't kind of fit in with it without a gimmick in the WWF from the highlights they showed. But he worked everywhere else because he was such a good, solid baby face that could sell and understood what was going on. And they were already, talking about potentially, him being the next champion. I think by 1981, what was it? That's where Funk said, don't go back to Texas, go to Georgia, meaning get on the TV there, TBS. You need people to see you because they were talking about him being one of the next champions for the NWA. And Terry would know that because by then, it was Terry and Dory that, they were booking for Baba, the Americans, and they still had membership in the NWA. I think that by that point in time, they'd sold Amarillo, but they knew what was going on.
And by the way, let me just clarify, I was wrong. It was WWF when he got there in 79.
When did they switch? In 78 then?
In 79. That's what when you said 78, that's what threw me off. 79 is when they switched. He gets there as the North American champion. And then he feuds with Pat Patterson, and all of a sudden they announced Pat Patterson won a tournament in Rio de Janeiro, and he's now the Intercontinental Champion.
That's right. And I got pictures of DiBiase with the North American title belt from Frank Amato. Do you remember that photographer?
Yeah, of course.
Everybody does, because he would write in black Sharpie his last name, Amato, across the corner of every picture he ever took on the front.
He wasn't the only one. Lil Al Vavasseur had a stamp that he put on everything. What are your thoughts as a photographer on other photographers that would
mar, deface, vandalize their photos?
Well, that would put a stamp on there or something to let the world know it's their photo.
Well, see, it was harder to steal shit in those days anyway. So the kids wouldn't understand what we were talking about because now they got the watermark online. But you can make a digital copy of anything. To steal someone else's picture on a grand scale in the 1970s, you had to take a decently clear picture to a photo place and have a copy negative made off of that picture, which wasn't going to look as good as the picture did, and then have copies made off of that. That was the way the procedure worked. So you were just... If you were stealing somebody's picture, you were being a complete prick because everybody could tell that it was a copy of a fucking picture. And it looked like shit, so most people wouldn't want it. So a lot of them, put their names on the back of the pictures so they couldn't get printed in magazines without credit. But some people would write their name on the front of the fucking picture, which I thought was cheesy because, goddamn it, somebody wants the picture to put on their wall. They don't want unless they felt like it was their autograph because they were celebrities. But I'm digressing, aren't I?
That's what this show's all about.
The digressions are sometimes better than the transgressions or the progressions.
They didn't talk about any of Ted's transgressions in terms of the Mississippi state government and...
Oh, come on now. You keep going back to Mississippi. The ghosts of Mississippi. Let the fucking ghosts of Mississippi lay.
That's what they're calling those tax dollars. The ghosts of Mississippi. That money just vanished.
They went, woo, off into the night. Woo, the money.
What'd you think, though, of, getting to the WWF portion here? And again, Bruce plays a big part of that because that's right when he got there. And maybe one of the things that helped sell him to Vince is someone who could be a complete stooge. What did you think of seeing...
You were looking for the word toady.
I was thinking toady, but I decided to go a different route. What did you think seeing the vignettes and very briefly, some of the behind the scenes of the early $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase vignettes? We always hear... I think it was the Scott Hall biography, where they said, yeah, this was a big thing for Vince. He was on hand producing it himself. Same thing with the $1 Million Man.
Well, I'm going to be in the minority. The $1 Million Man was not my favorite Ted DiBiase. As I pretty much mentioned before, my favorite Ted DiBiase was when he was a serious babyface on top and a serious heel on top in that early to mid 80s period, when he had that deep voice and he cut the fucking convincing promo and his work, the matches. But now, having said that, I recognize that he made more money with the $1 Million Man, and that's what everybody remembers. And I liked him in a lot of cases as the $1 Million Man. Again, in the ring, it was still Ted DiBiase. But I thought so much of the vignettes it was over the top. I know that's what everybody was doing in the WWF at that point in time. But the laugh, it was, bring it back. And that's the thing. Bruce loves to say the phrase, well, we wanted to create this character. And they're all trying to self-fillet themselves like they're in the actor's studio. He can't just come out and say, we wanted the gimmick to be he's a fucking multimillionaire. We wanted to create this character. And it worked because he could work and he could talk and he could pull the shit off, but it was Vince's because it was Vince's alter ego. It was Vince's personal gimmick that he came up with. Tony Khan comes up with, what's his name? Hologram, and Vince came up with $1 Million Man. And he did produce everything, but also Ted was taking it and running with it. That's why.
If it was Tony, it would be the boy with all the friends.
Yeah, there you go. The friended boy. The boy with too many friends. How many friends?
Too many friends.
Too many friends. But because of that, it was over the top corny in a lot of cases with what they put on television. And I know Ted got a kick out of it and Bruce got a kick out of everybody, but I'm like, he was more effective when he could really fucking dig into it. You believed it. But nevertheless, that just the laughing and some of the over the topness. I'm not talking about the general heel kicking the basketball out of the kid's dribble or what. By the way, that was Virgil's son, I believe, but they never mentioned that on this show. But anyway, the vignettes are what people remember. And at the same time, Vince, because this was his thing, actually, the stories are legendary, did fly him first class and paid for limousines and had him stay in the best hotel and gave him cash to fucking tip $100 bills to keep the gimmick up. And if it had been somebody like the Ultimate Warrior that had got that deal and was even being, because even Warrior didn't get goddamn tip money from Vince, right? The boys probably would have fucking killed him and buried him under a dam somewhere. But because they respected Ted and his ability, they go, "Well, you lucky son of a bitch." It was that kind of thing. But did this was another thing that bothered me, but I guess it would have been confusing after all. They covered the February 1998 NBC main event that was prime time on 88. Friday night. What?
88.
I said February 88.
You said 98.
Well, that's the old 98. Used to come round the bend.
Is that what that is?
Woo! That was the old 98. I was ducking out of the way of it. February of 88 is before I got on the train. It was a Friday night, wasn't it? Friday night at like 8 o'clock.
That's right, Friday night. It was the main event, not Saturday night's main event.
Well, NBC main event. The NBC main event. Or whatever the fuck it was. Anyway, that was where they did the twin referee deal, but they cut out the twin referees, what I'm trying to say to you. And they were talking about Ted wanted to buy the WWF title from Andre after Andre beat Hulk, which was the rematch from the previous year's WrestleMania. That's why it drew, what was the viewership? Like 33 million viewers?
Something like that. Biggest audience ever for professional wrestling.
Yeah, it was the first primetime network wrestling program since the Dumont Network had gone under in 1956, and it was the highest rated wrestling program ever in the United States. And so it was also when they signed, because I remember seeing it going, "Oh my God, that's fucking Earl," because Earl had been working for us at Crockett up until like the previous fucking day. And suddenly they did the twin referee, but they didn't show that. They just, that Ted bought the referee off or whatever. And couldn't they have said that Ted paid? Because that's what they said on the show, right? Was that, my God, did DiBiase pay for the plastic surgery? Did they have some law? It was Earl in a lawsuit or Dave in a lawsuit or whichever. I can't tell which one of them they showed because they were twins, you know.
Yeah, I don't know about any lawsuits. Obviously, there were issues that caused them to be fired for, I think, bootlegging merchandise, but that was a long time ago.
Which was bullshit, by the way.
I don't know anything about it, was it?
I side with the Hebners.
Why? What were they doing?
I don't know, but I side with them.
You can't say it's bullshit if you don't know.
Yeah, well, I heard, but I can't remember.
Well, that's good enough for me. God damn it.
Yeah, defendant will answer the question.
Don't make me badger you.
Anyway, so they did that deal there. And then, of course, Jack Tunney had said, "Oh, no, you can't do that." So they had the title declared vacant for the tournament at WrestleMania 4, which was against Clash 1. A lot of numerals here. And by the way, that's the Sunday afternoon from Greensboro where we had 7.8 million people, I believe it was, watching the last 15 minutes of Flair and Sting over on the Clash of Champions on TBS 36 years ago. Tony. But Teddy put Savage over in the finals of the tournament at WrestleMania. And he kind of phrased it, well, you know, Vince was selling the action figures, the toys, and everything to the kids. He needed a hero. I think he was going to put it on Savage all along anyway. Well, you know, that was what was planned, was it not?
Originally, it was supposed to be DiBiase, the story was, and then it was changed because that's when the story goes, Honky Tonk Man was asked to lose the Intercontinental title back to Randy Savage, but he didn't have a contract. So he started talking to Dusty Rhodes, I guess, or someone in that office, with the idea he would show up on TBS with the Intercontinental Championship. Vince made a deal with Honky. He held the title until SummerSlam. Instead of Savage winning that, he won the tournament that, again, rumor has it, DiBiase was going to win.
Ah, so there may be some smoke to that fire, or fire to that smoke, or charcoal, gasoline. Something to the story.
There could be.
There could be. Well, Ted bought the $1 million belt. So there you go. So he did the $1 million and again, I think that probably cost Vince more than any other belt that he ever, even though it was cubic zirconii, that's the plural, it still was a lot of work, a piece of work, and so Vince spent more on that belt than probably any other belt they ever bought in history. And then, once that they established that, the rest of the show was, well, meanwhile, the wife was taking care of the kids and Ted was always on the road, and people mentioned that Ted was partying hard. And then his wife said that she saw charges on the bills that made her catch him cheating. He put his shit on credit cards?
Ted, what's this $3,500 for hookers?
I might not know what a class act massage servant. What the? How?
Party favors, a.k.a. cocaine. What is this? Why'd you charge it, you idiot?
I don't know. Jerry Springer, he got caught when he was running for fucking governor, right, in Ohio, after he'd been the mayor of Cincinnati, writing checks to the massage parlor. But how do you...
Ted, I'm going through the books. I'm trying to get the taxes in order. What's his charge for late night pussy?
It's just...
And then it says everybody has a price. What's going on over there?
The memo line says get checked on Tuesday. What is... So somehow... And I don't know how, but somehow this has merely been conjecture on our part, ladies and gentlemen, on how. But his wife saw paying the bills that he had been cheating on her, and they went to counseling with a pastor and apparently got religion. So once again, extreme emotional stress leads to irrational beliefs, and I skipped a lot of this part, just being honest with you.
Hey, Ted, someone in your hotel room rented the movie Ass Blasters 5. You know anything about this? Are you watching it alone or with Virgil?
Wait a minute, Ted. I went back and watched Ass Blasters 5. You were in it.
Oh!
No, it's again mere extrapolation, ladies and gentlemen, on our part. Speculation only. If necessary, I'll be happy to go back and watch Ass Blasters 5 and make copious notes to make sure Ted's not really in it, just so I can clear him of that.
But seriously, though, what could she have seen on the credit card statements? Unless it was like, Madam Suck and Fuck. Like, what could she have seen on the statement that would have said Ted's fucking around? Unless it was just dinner for two, something that simple.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I hate to say this, but if you've given any thought to this whatsoever, have any experience with this type of thing, you're not going to buy any type of present or gift or service for an unauthorized individual and put it on a credit card or some type of paper documentation that your significant other would be examining at a later date, unless you just have completely lost your fucking mind, which has been known to happen. But I hate to think that Ted would be that sloppy, but apparently something may have taken place.
What's it say here on the receipt about sloppy $1 million dream? What was going on that night, Ted?
Either that or wait a minute. How did you spend $7,000 at Adam and Eve? Yet all I got was this lousy thing from fucking Spencer's Gifts.
Hey, maybe it's that. Maybe it's gifts. Who'd you buy all this for at Bergdorf?
Who?
Bergdorf Goodman. It's a famous store.
Oh, I haven't been to Bergdorf's.
Bergdorf.
Bergdorf. Well, it's his place, so it could be. That's a possessive apostrophe S. It belongs to him. Bergdorf's.
Well, back to SmackDown.
Back to DiBiase.
Back to Ted DiBiase.
Basically, after the religion part, they got back to wrestling just to say that he was having neck issues and he decided to retire and managed and announced for a little while and started preaching. And I skipped through the preaching part of the last of the show also. So that's kind of why I wanted to relive some of the glory years Ted DiBiase before he sold out and became the $1 Million Man and made all that money. But it was a decent program.
Indeed,
what was your final thoughts on?
I mean, I enjoyed it. Again, I joke about it, but leaving out that story when it's happening right now, it's hard to think this has credibility because of that. It's a very WWE centric documentary focusing on the things that make Ted happy. It seems, but that's most of these documentaries.
If it makes you happy.
Oh God, stop. Not the Sheryl Crow catalog. We've talked about this on like 4 different occasions.
Well, I just learned the tune of that though. I was proud.
I mean, a big takeaway. I mean, if they wanted to make some money, they could put on
But
Amazon.
How much is he involved in that? Or was it his sons and he got caught in some blowback and or ancillary heat?
I see what's going on. DiBiase got to you.
Well, no, I'm asking you, does he have what was he accused of? Because I know that his sons were doing things with ministries and state money, and those two things never fucking mix well together. But what was Ted actually doing involved in this?
They said that I believe he profited from the whole thing. I want to say there was a beach house or something, and also he slapped a child.
Do what now?
No, I added that. Just to get your attention. No, apparently there was some kind of financial shenanigans that I believe.
At an old blind lady, too.
And of course, there was a mansion on the water, as always.
A mansion on the water. As opposed to smoke on the water or fire in the sky. I mean, it's not goddamn Nightline. It's not 2020 piece. I don't think they're going to talk about his legal issues, except if he had brought it up as part of his wrestling career.
You think when they bust him for it and they say, what are all these charges? He should go back to his old faithful one. I'm cheating on my wife.
It was all in the process of having an extramarital affair, and I was trying to...
I didn't know anyone was going to look at these statements again. I didn't know this was going to happen.
You would think you'd get your paperwork in order after...
Well, good story, good documentary. It's amazing how when you see the photos of him as a child, other than like the period in the mid and late 80s where he grew out the facial hair and dyed it kind of blonde, he looks exactly facially now like he did when he was a kid. Like as soon as you see a picture of Ted DiBiase, you know it's him.
Yes, and he almost just the cheeks and the eyes and the overall shape, and he's always had a damn fine head of hair.
And deceptively big, because he's skinny. He was never big and muscular, like you said earlier, but he's 6'3"? Probably at least.
Yes, but what's your definition of skinny? Now, there's a ways in there between not muscular and skinny. He's always been, I think, 240, 250, and he is 6'3". He's a big guy.
He looked like it next to the other guys that were that same size, but they were all bulked up. Even when he was on the gas in WWE, he never got bulked up like that.
Yeah, well, and sometimes, it's not there. You can be in go shape better than show shape, if you see what I'm saying.
Well, speaking of the shape of things, as well as people's personal affairs, we'll be reviewing the Paul Heyman biography on the drive-thru.
Yes, as I mentioned, because I want to give it some attention, because I want to try to see if I can get any insight into what makes Happy Heyman tick. This is one I want to sit down. I didn't want to be interrupted for an hour over. But, the thing about DiBiase, they showed the modern stuff, the stuff he's doing now. He's preaching to small rooms. Brian, he's in person. Not the big crowds that he was in front of in the stadiums, not the major tens of thousands of people and millions that he was addressing on television, but he's down there, he's just speaking to a few people. I wonder if Ted should set up some kind of online presence to sell the religion to the folks, a platform, if you will, where he could get online and instead of standing there in front of 24 people, well, he could be standing out there in front of 20 billion people all around the world if he just had the platform to sell the product and service that he's trying to sell to the people.
Don'tTellMyWife.com.
That's it. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, if you have something like that you don't want your wife to find out about.
Something like what, Jim?
If you've got something like that, if you've got a product or a service or a line of horseshit that you want to sell to people around the world for good, honest money, that they will pay you for your product or good or service or whatever the case may be, and you need the platform which to launch this drivel, launch this golden opportunity out to the world, that's where you need our friends at Shopify, don't you, Brian?
I think the average person out there with their business looking for a good online solution for commerce needs Shopify. I don't know about this specific example or whether they would want to be associated with it.
Well, I agree with many of the words that you just uttered, because Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Now, every stage, there could be up stages and down stages. Now, a lot of people, they just want to get you and upstage you, but these people, they will get you and downstage you too. They're going to stick with you every stage of the way, and they're going to take in money, and they're going to send you a good part of it. I'll tell you that right now, because Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. That means they're already 1/10 of a monopoly. So think about this. When they are the global force behind the platforms at all the major online retailers, and they already have millions of other entrepreneurs across 175 countries, when they've wrapped this whole thing up and you're not involved, well, you're going to be fucked, because they're going to remember you. Everybody that is not doing business with Shopify right now, they're making a list. And I'll guarantee you.
No, you don't guarantee anything.
When they've wrapped up 99% of all the e-commerce in the world and you're getting squeezed, they're squeezing your neck until your britches are full. That's how tight it is. You'll wish that you had come crawling to Shopify when they were willing to deal with you, instead of what's going to happen to you now. So now, folks.
Let's just talk in positive ways, in a positive manner. Hey, your business needs help. Shopify's there to help it. They can help you. How's that, Jim?
Well, they can help in a variety of ways. They can make it easier on you, or they can make it harder on you, and you get to pick which one, and the choice is easy. I'm telling you, it's like, if you've got some great idea, Shopify can turn that idea into reality, because they can develop things all along the way, not only the websites, but also the best converting checkout on the internet. It's up to 36% better compared to shit that doesn't work. And they can, again, lead you through this every step of the way. Shopify Collective, curating products from brands you love. The Shopify Bundles app, where you can sell bundles of shit to people for no apparent, just put shit together and sell it. Doesn't have to be any rhyme or reason, but they'll show you how to do that.
There should be a rhyme or reason if you want to sell it.
Well, and they've got Shopify Magic, so they're just pulling shit out of thin air. But you can find out all about it, folks, at Shopify.com. That's what you can do. And like I said, get in good with them now, because later on it could be rough on you. If you're just one of the little guys when they've taken over completely, and then they will control the horizontal, they'll control the vertical. They will control all you see and hear.
They will be a fine, reputable business who operates up and above any...
Up and away!
They're wonderful people. Use them today for your business. Banging on tables, loud noises, and words. Shopify is there for you.
Yes, because businesses that grow with Shopify. Did you just say Spotify?
Shopify.
Sign up for a $1 a month trial period right now at shopify.com/JCE. That's all lowercase, the JCE. For some reason that matters. They've said this many times. But that's the thing, $1 a month trial period. Well, for how in the world can you possibly, what are you going to ask for, a refund on $1 a month? You can't afford the sales tax? What's your problem, Pismo? Go to shopify.com/JCE right now. $1 a month trial period. You can see all of the things they can do for you and how they can put you under their protective umbrella like a big brother watching over you, controlling your movements like a puppet master, everything you say and do, the air that you breathe, you'll become a broodmare for the state. It's all under one umbrella. Shopify.com/JCE, no matter what stage you're in. Well, Brian, I guess we're going to have to talk about the night before SummerSlam Smackdown at Cleveland, the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Google for me, if you can, how many people they had there while I vamp for you for a second. But I'm wondering if this was the old Gund Arena and now it's become the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, because it looks like a big old building. But they had a big old building up there already. Anyway, have you got any of this information?
A couple things here. It opened October 17th, 1994. It was the Gund Arena.
Okay.
Smackdown. This is the wrong Smackdown I'm looking at.
Well, you had one for two at least, but the Gund Arena was where they had SummerSlam 96, Vader and Shawn Michaels, and it's a big old building. I think it seats 20,000, somewhere abouts. And that's where the WWE, or F, or as it was known then, used to run. But it was a brand new place then. That's why I couldn't imagine that they had just cast it out like a bad penny and built another one in that time. Go ahead.
I need another moment, if you don't mind.
Oh, God damn it. See, you usually have these things at your fingertips. You had all the information on the Gund. The reason why I'm saying this is because let's remember they're in Cleveland, and I know it's SummerSlam, and it's a big show and a big destination, event for WWE fans, but they're not in Las Vegas. They're not at Nashville for the country music, or Florida for the weather, or somewhere else for the whatever. They're in fucking Cleveland because they had, I'm trying to find goddamn notes here, that 57,000 something. Now, even with WWE math, they had a lot of fucking people in that stadium. Where do they announce? 57,791 is what they announced for SummerSlam. Do we know anything about paid there yet?
Paid? No, we don't know yet.
So, but they announced that many. So you add what they had in the fucking Gund Arena, which is an NBA arena. It seats 20,000 people, and that was fucking jammed. They had a decent-sized stage, but still. The fuck, 60 or 70,000 people in Cleveland. How is it? It's good, but it ain't that good, is it? I am shocked and amazed. Anyway, they get people to come and pay and park and come in to see an infomercial the night before to advertise the pay-per-view. And that's kind of what Smackdown was. And just of note, it won't take us long. I have observations on, what happened in a couple of the spoken word interludes. They had the Cody showdown or face off or pose down stripped down, whatever, with Solo, and they don't have to do anything. Cody does his entrance. They chant his name. They sing the whoa, whoa. They go crazy. He got, what do you want to talk about over finally? I think he could come out and fucking fart. They'd be, yes, what a great fart.
Okay,
and
give me a break.
Well, I mean, they're telling very good stories. But at the same time, still, it's like, are they putting something in the soft drinks when the people come in the arenas? There's some kind of mind control device being, maybe when you get your ticket from Ticketmaster these days, they also chip you so that you're a pawn of the WWE Fan Enforcement Committee. They're doing everything they want him to fucking do. As soon as he mentions Solo, they boo him, and then they play his music, and out comes Solo. And have you noticed he looks like a Samoan Al Sharpton?
Well, now that you say it, I guess I could see it.
He's got a long black coat over the top of another black coat with a gold chain around his neck and the gloves, and he looks like before Al lost all that weight. And as soon as he gets in the ring, they chant, "We want Roman." I mean, he tells the fans to acknowledge him, and the screen goes black. Apparently somebody said, "Fuck you." And they chant Solo sucks. And then they speak to each other. And Cody delivers that, staccato roller coaster of verbiage in a flawless manner that I know you think is overly dramatic, but it fits this. It fits this Shakespearean scene they've got going on here, where the lights are on these people as
I am from multiple points in time here to talk to Flash Gordon. Like, what is this way of talking? It's just so, because at times when he nails Cody can get the humanity of everything better than most, and he also gets the fakeness of the overacting of everyone.
The grandiose.
Yeah.
It's grandiosity. And it's like Dusty.
Pomposity. It sounds like Dusty doing Shakespeare.
Yes, and alas, poor Yorick. I knew the motherfucker well, Horatio.
Maybe not that Dusty doing
That's the way he do it on the plane. After watching the Volunteer Jam 1 videotape about 3 times, he would, alas, poor York. I knew that motherfucker better than anybody. But Solo is doing a good job here, given his level of experience. But the whole thing was to sell SummerSlam. And then the one part they got somehow crossed up, or somebody went to business for themselves, because Solo was starting to offer the challenge or proffer the challenge to make SummerSlam a Bloodline rules match, when suddenly there's Jacob Fatu coming through the fucking crowd, and it stepped on it. And then here comes the Tamas and the Loas and the Tongas. And Cody got it back on track, but they stepped on the challenge there, didn't they?
Maybe a bit, but I don't think so. I don't think it was that big a deal. I mean, we got a big reaction when Jacob Fatu started walking out. And then,
Yeah, well, it stepped on Solo's original offer of it. I think somebody maybe thought they heard the cue or whatever and sent the guy, but then Cody reiterated it, so they heard it. So there's that. Do you think you weren't offended by that?
Do you think there's much incentive to take on the Bloodline rules?
Well, no, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I'll just let you and all of your friends, make it okay for you to just gang up on me and just beat the shit out. No, it doesn't make any sense, but that puts jeopardy in the babyface's path. And to be honest, all of these people now have given up on having anything make any sense anyway. They just want to see some fucking Jeopardy. I lost on Jeopardy. baby. Woo.
All right, I don't remember the woo woo woos there, so let's
remember the Greg Kihn band did Jeopardy, and then Weird Al did
that's right.
the Jeopardy parody. Anyway, Cody Rhodes says to them he's not afraid of the Tongas, and he ain't afraid, even though he maybe he's dumb or whatever. I'm not afraid of Jacob Fatu, you dumb son of a bitch. And then everybody chanted for Cody. And Cody agreed for the stipulation, bloodline rules at SummerSlam. And then Solo told Cody, well, I'm not going to have them kick your ass now because they're going to win a tag team title night and we're going to kick your ass tomorrow. And Cody said, well, the tribal chief's not here, so I'll settle for the wannabe. And then they all walked off.
Well, that got a big reaction. You just went through it pretty quick. But when he said that, again, referencing Roman, that he's the real tribal chief, that got a big reaction.
Yes, it did, because they want to see Roman, hence why they've been chanting, we want Roman. And I didn't mean to throw it off like that, but that's the point, is that, you know, they've established the pattern that if these guys, you know, get in the ring with somebody, they're going to just kill them and nobody does anything about it. And then they just, well, but this time we're not going to fight, because they shouldn't fight that close to SummerSlam. It's already made, but they always have to do the thing where, well, they're going to be face to face. So now, because they always fight, everybody expects a fight. And then when they don't fight, everybody's let down because they didn't fight. So they kind of painted themselves into a corner there. Sometimes, they don't just always have to be face-to-face every fucking week, is the point I'm making. The match was already made. Everybody was as interested as they were going to be. But then they couldn't figure out a way for all these people to run in without it being bloodline rules. So they just, well, let's make it bloodline rules. Anyway, they had a bunch of fucking matches that didn't mean anything, and then Logan Paul came home. Logan Paul came home to Cleveland, even though apparently he's actually from Westlake, Ohio. It's what was revealed a little bit later on. But this is basic shit. It's see-through shit. You can see it coming, and it's all working. The people are loving it. They hate the piss they love the piss being taken out of the heel they hate. They like it when the babyface LA Knight gets over on this fucking asshole. This is Wrestling 101 with a giant budget, where they can have banners made and drop them from the ceiling, and they can hire extras or just have people that work in the office now that are wearing a suit just fucking stand, whatever. But this was a 15-minute segment, and it didn't break any revolutionary booking ground, and everybody loved every goddamn thing. And it's just so simple. And Nick Aldis is in the ring. He announces he's in the ring with these Cleveland dignitaries, and there's two people and a woman standing behind him.
Yeah,
right?
Who were they? Exactly.
And they were not named. And then he introduces Logan Paul, and the people boo him, and as he's coming to the ring, the screen goes black 2 or 3 times. I don't know if they're giving him the finger, or they're showing their tallywhackers or whatever. And they've got a sign in the crowd, Prime tastes like water from Lake Erie. And he does a good heel promo, and of course, apparently we're beginning more and more to find out he may be a dick, really. So now people are really not liking him. And they get all over him, and he trashes Cleveland because even though he's from there, he's better than them because he's a success and blah, blah, blah. And that's why he brought out these Cleveland dignitaries. And then Aldis said, well, I actually Googled their names, put them in the Google machine, and I couldn't find anything. And Logan Paul, you're not from around here. You don't know how much they mean. And he wants to
It's such a good answer. That's such a good answer.
You're not from around here, see, or you'd know. And he goes to unveil his championship banner with big fanfare. And when it drops from the ceiling, it's got, yeah, spray painted across it. And again, I said, this is classic wrestling. I have done this saying. I did it in Smoky Mountain Wrestling when I unveiled the portrait of my mother, Mama Cornette, and the Rock and Roll Express had snuck in and switched a picture of a St. Bernard with curlers in its hair or whatever. And it's been done in every territory and the people love it. This is a fucking big budget deal. And that's when LA Knight comes out and he gets a big pop and they chant LA Knight and everything he says is over. They and they fill it in. And he's the one that tells everybody that Logan Paul's from Westlake and gets a pop. And he said, I'm going to go in the back and get you a banner. Since I ruined your banner, I'll go get you a banner. And so he goes in the back and he's wandering around. And this is like something they would have done with Steve Austin in 1999 or whatever. And he asked the jobbers for a banner. He ain't got no banner. And finally he runs into the Prime Hummer. And at that point, Logan Paul in the ring's like my fucking truck. And he starts running to the back and LA Knight has gotten in it and started it up. And right as Logan Paul comes running in, LA Knight drives it off and Logan Paul chases it. He can't catch it. That's a crime. This is fucking wrestling. Can anything be more basic? And the people are eating it up.
Nothing could be more basic than a man chasing after a Hummer. Good segment. I agree with everything else you said.
It's as old as time. And then they had the women's tag team title on the line with Jade and Bianca against Fire and Ice, and the heels got disqualified because Blair Davenport came up, and they came up or came out or popped out. Whatever.
What did she do? Now I'm completely confused.
Well, she interfered is what she did. She came into the ring and came out to the ring, interfered, and they got disqualified, and they beat up the babyface.
And she rose from a subterranean post to get there?
Well, I'm coming out. I want the world to know. Got to let it show. I'm gonna beat these old bad heels up now. All right, anyway.
That was in your key.
Yeah, that was my key, all right. Well, speaking of the key of Jacob Fatu, the Samoan werewolf, is where we're rounding this program out because the men's tag team title was also on the line with Ciampa and Johnny Sameface, who's also from Cleveland. He let everybody know in his pre-match interview. They let him talk. Jesus Christ. They were defending against Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu, accompanied by Tonga Buyer's Remorse Loa.
Stop it. He's my favorite guy in the company right now.
So they put Jacob in this thing, and thank God. And he's getting over like a superstar. But Gargano, as I said, tried to do a fired up promo because he's a hometown guy. But we've seen this. I don't know how he lasts that long in this environment where he never gets any different, grows as a person, never blossoms like Drew McIntyre has. He's small. He's plain. He's technically proficient, and he looks like a fucking nerd. And he's never going to be a top guy. I can understand with Ciampa, he's in his 40s now, and he's had a history of major injuries that he's come back from like a goddamn cyborg. But and he's got a unique look and his work is great, but maybe they don't want to invest that much because of those issues. But what the fuck? Why keep this fucking Gargano around? In this star-filled environment, what does he offer to this fucking program except a boring indie presence? Is my question to you.
Well, you wouldn't want to lose a talent like that to AEW, so you got to do what you can to lock them
God,
down.
he'd be perfect over there.
He'd actually probably be in the super heavyweight division over there. But look, he's not my favorite. I'm not a fan of Gargano's. And once you point out his facial expressions, it never changes. Once you hear his promos,
never changes.
You realize that's not his thing. The skits that he was doing with his wife for a while, with Theory and Indy Hartwell, where they all lived together. It's like Three's Company, but there were four. It was terrible. Yeah, I mean, people like his matches because he kicks out of moves. He'll take big moves, he'll kick out of everything, and that's the key. You can take someone who looks like dog shit, and if they can work a match without getting hurt and just kick out of everything that happens to them, everyone will be raving about him.
Well, he didn't kick out of everything that happened to him here because it was a decent match, short for this program's norm. And, again, but Jacob Fatu hit Gargano with a pop-up Samoan drop, a springboard moonsault, an implant DDT, 1, 2, 3. Thank you for coming, and stood over his fallen fucking body. Oh, werewolf of Samoa. Oh.
Isn't he from the Bay Area?
That's what I was doing. I was baying at the moon. Oh.
All
now,
right.
Harley just turned her head and looked at me. I'm sorry, baby. It's okay.
Now, obviously, tag team wrestling and the tag team division has meant nothing, means nothing in WWE because of the way they use it, but every now and then the tag titles end up around or near main event people. What do you think of the idea of putting the belts on Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu here?
Well, this is perfect because even if the belts still don't mean anything because there are not a variety of full-time teams to challenge the bloodline at the level that they need to be. In other words, everybody else is a middle card fucking talent in the tag team division. But with the bloodline having the gold, and it's part of a promise that they're starting to fulfill of winning all the gold again and having this hierarchy be dominant like the last one was. So that makes it mean something. And also you can have the Ortons and the Owenses and people, the LA Knight, whoever the fuck, teaming up to go after the tag team title. And you can put that in the main. You can't have the bloodline versus Pretty Deadly or whatever the fuck in any kind of main event. But you can pair up the normal single stars that are fighting the bloodline. So it's going to hopefully elevate the tag team title rather than the title elevating the team because it's part of the top story now. So I like that. And obviously we said it was going to happen. It had to happen. It couldn't go any other way because they weren't going to fucking beat Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga or any members of the bloodline with Tommaso Ciampa and Jarny Gargano. Oh,
Jarny Wrestling.
Carney Wrestling, more like it. But so that was SmackDown, and that set us up for, again, they're in Cleveland, and they've drawn 60-something thousand people over 2 days, and this was a 2-hour infomercial for what they were going to be invited to come back and pay to see the following night. I mean, but am I wrong? How is this? TKO has hired a staff of mass hypnotists to cast a spell on these people because it's elementary shit, but everybody's over and people are fighting to give them their fucking money. How has this transpired?
I think it goes to the argument that the simple stuff is what works. And for years under Vince, they got away from a lot of the simple things that always worked to the point where you would leave a segment of the audience with resentment. Or they would feel like WWE resented them.
Yeah.
And you don't have that anymore. And no one's presented in an insulting fashion for the most part. I mean, like even the goofy stuff like the models, or not the models, but a model girl and Otis. Like that's the height of the silliness now. So that ain't that bad. Because it used to be a whole lot lower.
Yeah, well, quite a while back, Vince was out there pulling his pants down so somebody's head could be shoved up his ass.
And none of that stuff was on this show. You know, none of the things that fill up SmackDown and Raw, either matches that, you know, no one for the most part really cares about. It's not none of the main event people, none of the main event talking segments, or Raw, where you do have some silliness and, of course, the odd zombie or two. That wasn't on SummerSlam. You know, so it goes to say a little bit about what the priorities are and what's being put on these shows. And again, even if, you know, the babyface loses, nothing is done in a way that you feel like you're yanking the rug out from the fans. And you saw that a lot with Vince, whether it's things like guys losing in their hometown.
Yeah.
For no reason. I mean, I'm not saying everyone has to win, like Eddie Gilbert at Memphis. That doesn't have to be that way everywhere. But it became like a thing to almost like fuck with the wrestler. And I don't think right now Triple H and Nick Khan and Lee Fitting are fucking with the wrestlers. They're collaborating with them. And, you know, happy wife, happy life, happy wrestling locker room, happy fan base. Who knows?
Well, and, you know, at the top, the Nick Khans and the TKO people and the Ari Shapiros and Ari
Emanuel, Mark Shapiro.
Mark Shapiro. Well, or it could be Ari Shapiro and Mark Emanuel.
It could be, but those are different people that don't work for this company or have.
Well, regardless, it's a new day. They're just maximizing revenue. They're used to. It was almost like when some city government heard a wrestling show was coming to town, they're like, oh, shit, we got to try to put a stop to that. Now the fucking towns are paying them to please take millions of dollars to come here. Ah, Christ. All righty. Well, they were in Cleveland Browns Stadium for SummerSlam is what they were in or there to do.
Yes, they were all of the above and so much more. You never know what's going to happen with that. Summertime Spectacular. Used to be the end of summer. Now it's in the middle, SummerSlam.
Now it's right dead in the middle where you can't get around it. And what a fucking house. What a stadium. You know, the last time I was there, it was Municipal Stadium. I have worked Cleveland at a stadium wrestling show. Of course, it was a stadium baseball and wrestling show. In the old Cleveland Municipal Stadium, 1987, the Indians bought a show from Crockett, and the Midnight wrestled, as I recall, the Rock and Roll Express.
Really? Anything else interesting about that show?
Well, funny that you might ask that.
Like, was it after a game, or was it a day where the team was out of town? How did it work?
No, it was after. They bought a show. It was after a game. They played a baseball game. It was an afternoon deal, and they played a baseball game, and then they had like a 4 or 5 match, as I recall, wrestling show. And it was at the old stadium back, and as from what I remember, the crowd was nothing like the SummerSlam, because a lot of people weren't going to see the Indians back in those days, but there was still probably 15,000 or whatever. And that's why they had the Super Bowl of wrestling back in 1972, Johnny Powers and Pedro Martinez, the NWF, in the same building as I'm talking about. And that flopped. They didn't draw but maybe 10,000 people. So, because it was an overbooked concept. Tony Khan must have learned more from Johnny Powers than anybody else. But that's
what he models his hair after.
Well, there you go. But at the old stadium, so we had Midnight Rock and Roll, and they told me, I've told you this story before, but they told me, they said, we got to build the ring now. They got to put the ring up after the baseball game, because they put the ring next to home plate so people could see what was going on. So we're going to call an intermission, but go out and cut a promo and kill a little time, and then we'll call an intermission. We'll get the ring up in that time. And so I went out there, and some people had come because they advertised, and Crockett was on TV in Cleveland, and they knew I was going with the NWA, and so they had come to see the wrestling. But there was some people that just came to see the goddamn Cleveland Indians play baseball, right? And they weren't used to hearing wrestling promos because they might not have watched wrestling. So when I went out in the first 45 seconds, I said the last people the Indians beat was Custer, And this, why did they put the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame here? Name one rock and roll star ever from Cleveland. A mistake on the lake. I fired them up so bad they started throwing shit. And we're trying to climb over the I don't know what they call the fencing they have between the grandstands and the fucking field in baseball. And the baseball people came and gave me the egg. He said, go ahead and cut it off now. Go on by, Will. You killed enough time. But that was they had the Cleveland Indians were playing ball then in this dilapidated rundown stadium, and they didn't draw 20,000 people.
I don't think it's the same stadium.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Back then, they're in a dilapidated stadium, and they didn't draw 20,000 people, and now they got this giant fucking Super Bowl stadium, and they got 60,000 people there for fucking wrestling.
Do you like the movie Major League?
I'm trying to remember if I ever watched the movie Major League.
Really? It seems like it would be right down your alley. Charlie Sheen, Wesley Snipes, Tom Berenger. The Cleveland Indians suck, and they somehow turn it around to get their ex-showgirl owner and really teach her a lesson.
I've seen the poster. I remember the poster.
We need to do a review. You may like this movie.
Did they pattern the owner on Marge Schott?
No, more like Hank Gunkel, maybe. No, I don't know. It wasn't like Marge Schott, but I'm very serious. You may actually really enjoy that movie more than any other baseball movie ever.
Was this before Charlie Sheen went mad?
Before. Wow, you hear that thunder?
Oh, now they're coming for you?
Holy shit. That's a long thunder. No, Charlie Sheen had already gone mad. It's just it wasn't out in the public really yet.
Okay, so we didn't know that yet.
Yeah.
Well, we'll check back in with that. Speaking of people that have gone mad, the people went mad over Triple H. At the start of the fucking show, time to play the game, and Triple H makes his entrance into the aisle. He doesn't even have to walk all the way to the ring. It might put too much stress on him. But he does the promo in the aisle and welcomes everybody to SummerSlam, and now they love him. Whereas before, no matter who was in the creative spot, they knew Vince was in charge. The fans I'm talking about being they. Too many pronouns, pal. And they didn't like Vince, and they didn't like what Vince was doing to their favorite wrestlers. They were mad at Vince, and that made the company heels. And now they have done away with all this fucking bullshit. Heel, evil empire, McMahon ownership of the company. People are smart that that's gone. And Triple H is the guy that's bringing them all this great wrestling with these stars that they love. So they love him. To love is in the air, Brian. Love, the Cupid's arrows are flying.
And the other thing is now this is becoming a semi-regular thing on these big events. You know, Vince did it for WrestleMania 3. Everyone remembers that. But Triple H is now coming out to do the intro for these shows on a lot of these shows. And it's getting the right reaction. It's getting people amped up. People are cheering him. No one's yelling, hey, you bald asshole. Like, hey, why haven't you returned my calls, dick? Like, none of that or anything else. There's more thunder. Boy, they really are coming for me. But,
well, it's
yeah, but
smart.
he's doing intros now. What do you think of the idea of the promoter, you know, for lack of a better term for the fans, he's the promoter doing an intro to these shows?
Well, he's smart, and it's perfect because he's still not... He's not the top guy in this hierarchy anymore. But the more that he becomes the face, like old Dana White and his fucking political activities, but he's the face of the UFC, the more that Triple H is the face of the WWE, not only he's doing a good job, but the more he ingrains himself into that position, like, do you want to take me away from them? They trust me. The fans love me because I bring them this wrestling. So it's a smart thing to do, but also it baby faces the company in general with the fans that have been disaffected for. That's why AEW worked in the beginning to the extent that it did. Not that it was ever really any good, but because it was something for the people who hated Vince and Vince's wrestling to cheer for. And now that they don't have to hate the other company, and the other company has all the stars, and the other company is giving them shit they want, that's why only the really drooly, knuckle-draggy type of goofy comedy wrestling fan is still rabid, in support of the other guys that don't make sense and present a secondary product. That's why I think I said this a year ago when this whole thing started to emerge, that AEW has lost their primary weapon, which was that so many people just didn't want to like the WWE. Now they're like, oh shit, this is great. And I ain't got time for that other stuff. That's just me, but I think there may be something to that fucking thought, just if you dig down in it. But then Triple H, I'll say this and I'll let you comment, Brian, got heat with me by introducing Jelly Roll, who sang something in the ring. I bet now that he's a celebrity, he's rethinking those prison tattoos on his fucking face.
I don't know. It's kind of the in thing now with some of the kids, especially if, you want to show that you're hard.
Well, but I don't care whether he's hard or not. By the way, did you see the size of that belly? He probably can't tell whether he's hard or not.
Well, again, I don't know. What was the question?
The thing with Jelly Roll, he walked in a gym one day where I was working out.
Really?
I was working out and he walked in the gym. And I said, holy shit, look at you, the size of you, you're fat. And he said, yeah, I know I'm fat. And I said, how long's it been since you've seen your dick? And he said, it's been a long time. And I said, why don't you dye it? And he said, why? What color is it now?
All right. There's no reason to, once again, this man has to go through life with those tattoos. There's no reason to make fun of him any further.
On his fucking face. Anyway, and The Miz is the host in the crowd. He's the host with the least. But they started out with the women's title, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley accompanied by Dominic Mysterio, Mommy and Poo Poo are back together again. What did she call him?
Dom.
Dum dum, bam bam, whatever. Anyway, I think you will probably agree with me here that Rhea Ripley is the best talent currently in women's wrestling and maybe of all time in women's wrestling at an in-ring level. She's very good on promos and she's really over, but just in ring, she stands out, I think, above any other female in the business. And
I agree. You asked me, so I'm going to jump in on here and make sure I'm on the record. I agree. And in terms of who we've seen here in the United States on TV, I don't think anyone's ever been better than her.
And at the same time, I've said that I'm not much on Liv Morgan, but they've told a great story here. And they've got the people into it. And I like this because Liv Morgan is still in the ring to me is sloppy and unbelievable. And I don't get it. And, if she was a little Weasley manager or something, blah, 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 I'd like her a lot more. But nevertheless, the match was good because Rhea Ripley can make something out of any kind of a match. And because the people were into it because of the story. So Liv is still not Mildred Burke, but this worked. And again, there was some element of psychology and logic placed in it that Rhea is twice her size, and she ran from Rhea and hid from her until finally Rhea caught her and beat her up for a while. But then when Rhea had a miscalculation and got her bad shoulder run into the turnbuckle, then she could sell the bad shoulder, which she does so well. and gave her a reason to sell for tiny little Liv and to be at a disadvantage against tiny little Liv. And, you know, again, Ripley's, the basics, the facials, the little things are fantastic that I got to be honest with you, most women, even the really good women, don't pick up on. That, and I would have to be sitting here breaking down video to show you what I'm talking about. But anyway, I'm not sure that I like the idea. At one point, Liv Morgan goes for the dive on Rhea. She's on the floor, and Dominic shoves Rhea out of the way and eats the dive. And that was fine for a spot like it was. People reacted to it. But with where they ended up going, I wish they hadn't done that to me. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to spoil it for the people who haven't heard it yet.
You think it was too much doing it that first time? It
doesn't make sense with what's going to happen later. Why would he want her to miss? You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. I mean, unless they're going to come up with some argument, but what's the argument?
And he could have easily have gone, looked up and seen her flying and gone, oh shit, and put his hands over his head because he is a chicken shit prick. And he wouldn't have committed, and he could have, got out of the, whatever. Anyway, finally, after Rhea had sold the shoulder, it's out. She's screaming, it's out to people. She does the deal where she runs it into the desk and, quote, puts it back in and makes her come back. Is that a Mel Gibson thing? Because he's from Australia too.
Oh, I don't know. I thought, he's a schmuck. I don't know if anyone goes based on that. Do you think that was done too much in this match? Well,
Stacey pointed that out because she said, well, that's what Mel Gibson was doing in the movies. And that's where they got the idea because he's Australian.
I don't know. He didn't write the movie, but,
well, he goddamn perpetrated it.
What do you think of that spot? Because that was, again, done in a similar fashion later in this match.
I think if she did it once, it was fine. When she did it again, I'm like, if my shoulder had been separated, I don't know if I want to run it into that turnbuckle again another couple times. But nevertheless, it wasn't a great match. Liv is awkward, but they got the story. And Liv kept going to the arm, and finally, then they did a spot. Here's again. Liv Morgan gets a chair and comes in the ring, and the referee stands there and looks at her. This is not a no disqualification match. But because she hasn't used it yet, somehow if you bring a foreign object into the ring and get caught, it's a disqualification rule has morphed into, well, we'll just stand there and maybe admonish you until you actually kill somebody with it, and then we're going to punish you for it. So Liv then goes to hit Rhea with the chair, but Rhea kicks her and she drops the chair. And the referee leaves it laying in the right place because it's in the right place. This is starting to sound like lazy booking. And it was. They want to do something, but goddamn, take some more care to get there. So the referee doesn't pick the chair up, and Rhea hits the riptide on Liv and then sees the chair and picks it up, and all the day she thinks she's going to have good luck and draws back, and then Dominic grabs the chair and takes it away from her and says, you can't win like this. Meanwhile, the referee has tried to do nothing. So Dominic says, you can't win like this. And she's like, why can't I fucking win like this? And as they're discussing this, Liv kicks Rhea into Dominic, who gets knocked down, and then Liv hits her sloppy finish where she jumps into the ropes and falls backwards and whatever and gets a 2 count. And then Dominic slides the chair back in the ring and draws the referee. So that one would think Rhea Ripley could pick up the chair and he's had a change of heart, but instead, where he slid it in, Liv ran and jumped into the ropes and did her sloppy finish to Rhea on the chair and pinned Rhea Ripley 1, 2, 3. And then everybody, what the fuck? And then Liv rolls out, and Dominic, that no good, that reprehensible cad, that bounder, that rapscallion. He picked Liv up and he hugged and he kissed her right on the mouth and everything, and left with Liv and ran out on Rhea. And you just know she's going to have to do something about that. If I was in high school again, I could appreciate this more, but the people are into it.
You know, Dominic and Liv together could be a heat machine.
Just a heat machine, and I don't work for nobody. Make me think of something.
No, I'm trying to make you stop. When Dominic was first with Rhea, she was still a heel to the point where the fans weren't cheering her yet.
Yes.
Now it's awkward. Now it changes everything. All of a sudden now he's with the... I don't think, is there any woman in the women's division with more heat than Liv Morgan?
Well, probably not, because she's the one that just stole Dominic away from Rhea. That means she's one of the mean girls. I think she's actually, personally, I think she saved Dominic a lot of heartbreak because Rhea was gonna trade up at some point. She's too big of a star to have little Dominic trailing around with her.
Well, we'll see what happens, but that was the opening match. I thought it was a fun match. Whatever sloppiness you're attributing to Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley saved. Like the spot where she landed on the chair, all these different things.
Oh, yeah.
Rhea Ripley, the way she moves around the ring, you believe she's hurt a lot, even when she's not. She's, I think, the very best we've ever seen.
Yeah, so that's why you're saying you can accept Liv if Liv is sloppy. You wouldn't mind sloppy Liv Morgan.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Jim Cornette.
Well, in the back of the building, the Judgment Day clubhouse, Dominic Priest came in and was pissed and is asking JD Funko and Finn and Carlito, "Where's Dominic?" And then he snatched Finn up. "Did you know about this?" And Finn's like, "No." "Well, where is the little prick?" And everybody scampers out to find Dominic. They put out the APB. And because Priest is not happy about what's happened here. He has brought dishonor to the Judgment Day.
He asked for the prick. McAfee yelled piece of shit, I think, at the end of the first match. I think asshole may have gotten on this show as well.
Yeah, he was on it. But he was in one of the later matches.
What do you think, though, of this? It's not the Attitude Era or anything, but the idea that they're opening up the language thing. So if you are watching with a kid still, they're now just introducing all... I mean, we're a few weeks away maybe from fuck.
Well, see, the thing is, I used to on pay-per-view, okay, yes, then you can say asshole or, prick or whatever. But now this is not really pay-per-view. It's on Peacock. So the kids have it in their very own home. But I guess, have you seen the kids running around the fucking hills and valleys these days? I guess they probably heard worse than asshole. But it is quite a departure from when they couldn't say boo to a goose because Vince was mad that they wouldn't get a sponsorship from Gerber baby food or whatever.
What do you think of this dynamic? The idea that Priest is upset that Rhea, who he was one of the founders of Judgment Day with, was screwed over by Dominic.
Well, that's perfect with where they're going later on, which we called all this shit, didn't we? Pretty much all of it. I think we have to go back and listen to our predictions, but I think we were fairly well accurate in much of the things that we said. As far as the way the things were going to turn out here, flesh out, shake out, rattle and roll out, whatever, who was going to win. We done pretty good, didn't we? Speaking of which, for the Intercontinental title, Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker. And I'm sure that a lot of the modern fan, the AEW type of fan, would just be just putrefied by this match because it didn't go that long. Well, it didn't seem like it was 7 or 8 minutes. I don't know if it was that. But what a rotten match, because they made the step to get Braun Breaker over by beating Sami Zayn, who went 25 minutes with Roman Reigns in about 7 fucking minutes. And that's smart. And that's what it doesn't hurt Sami Zayn or Zsa Zsa Gabor. It doesn't hurt Sami Zayn. He's already over. It was done well. There was a reason for it. And both guys did it perfectly. And Braun Breaker gets over as a goddamn beast. It was back and forth. Sami using the speed and agility, and Braun Breaker being physical and mauling him. And apparently now McAfee was calling it a Breakensteiner instead of a Frankensteiner. There was some controversy. People have been trying to analyze what it was he said because it sounds so similar. But he's been calling it the Breakensteiner, but they're still acknowledging that Braun Breaker is a Steiner because Rick and Scott Steiner were in the goddamn skybox watching the match.
Yeah, this doesn't clarify that he's not a member of the Franken family. This has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you what, if he was a member of the Franken family, he would have a goddamn ton of money because after they invented Frankenberry, they fucking cleaned up. Cereal magnates is what they were.
What do you think of Booberry?
Well, I wasn't much on Booberry.
What about Count Chocula?
Count Chocula, I don't think you should mix your chocolate with your cereal. But did you notice that Booberry was the one that disappeared? You never saw Booberry again.
Well, I've seen them in recent years. I guess they bring it back for people who still want to taste it. What do you mean chocolate shouldn't be with cereal? You don't like Cocoa Puffs or something?
No, chocolate should not be with cereal. Cereal is in the morning, and chocolate is in the evening. And don't you know
the
that?
Evening? No, I didn't know this. Chocolate's in the evening.
Yes, because chocolate is a dessert. It's a candy. It's something you eat after a meal. You can't mix your chocolate with your breakfast unless you stayed up all night. Anyway, so they had Braun and Sami. They had a really quick back and forth, boom, fast pace. Braun hit a big spear, got the speed up for the big spear, and speared him 1, 2, 3. And won the Intercontinental title as we predictified he would. And it's also, Brian, feel free to chime in on this, the ugliest championship belt ever, that Intercontinental belt they're using right now. You can't remember what it looks like, can you?
Oh, no, I was listening to the rain outside. I apologize. No, I mean, I don't think it's that bad. You think it's that bad?
I think it looks like shit.
Why?
I really did. Just
because it's one color? Because it's just like one...
It's one color. It kind of looks... it doesn't stand out. It doesn't have prominent features. It's like a hubcap. A fancy hubcap. Speaking of a fancy hubcap, can Logan Paul find any weirder looking fucking friends?
Well, when you're looking for unemployed people to hang on, there's only so many people you could pick from.
Every one of his friends, they are all named by their initials. They all dress inappropriately, look he came out with some skinny tattooed guy named MGK.
That's Machine Gun Kelly. He's a musician.
Well, he must be. He had his fingernails painted. He had a razor blade earring. He weighed about 120 pounds, even though he stood apparently about 6 feet tall. And he had, again, an obvious prison tattoo. How long did he spend in jail to get all those tattoos? Who are these fucking people?
Are you slapping stuff? What are you doing over there?
I turned my chair creaked here as I moved in it.
Were you slapping before the creak?
I may have put my pen in again.
Okay, that may have been it. That may have been it.
Would you like me to slap somebody?
I have a few candidates if you need a list.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was Logan Paul and LA Knight for the U.S. title. And Logan Paul comes out with the skinny guy named MGK, I guess, Machine Gun Kelly, you say. He's so skinny when he gets a sunburn, he looks like a thermometer. When he sticks his tongue out and turns sideways, he looks like a zipper. He could hula hoop with a Cheerio. He has to run around in the shower to get wet.
All right.
He could fucking limbo through a garden hose. Anyway, they had the match for the U.S. title, and as we mentioned, LA Knight needs to produce. But the people here were with him. He drove up in the Prime truck that he stole Friday night and broke one of the windows out, and then made the entrance, and Logan Paul jump starts it, and they fight on the floor, and they fight into the Prime cart, and Logan Paul spits Prime in LA Knight's face. I bet that could have blinded you, that kind of battery acid stuff. And he cleared off the desk, and then LA did the heads to the desk and gave Logan Paul a big neck breaker on the desk. And then they got in the ring, and the referee rang the bell. Remember when, again, whenever both guys got in the ring or came near the ring and they started fighting, the referee was like, oh shit, ring the bell, here we go. Now they can fight apparently for 10 minutes, but as long as they don't both get in the ring, the referee doesn't have to ring the fucking bell. When did this rule change pop up?
Well, I don't know. They change all sorts of rules with counting and referees and what's a DQ and a countdown. Countdown.
Instant replay. I got to hit. Well, anyway, this was, again, it was a good match. It wasn't anything revolutionary. It was exactly what it needed to be. Babyface against heel. They love LA Knight. They hate Logan Paul. And so LA Knight cooked on him, and then Logan Paul posted him and started some heat. LA Knight fought from underneath. Finally made a comeback. Hit an elbow off the top rope and got a 2 count. And then Logan Paul did a springboard moonsault to the floor on LA Knight out of fucking, I don't know where the fuck he came up with that.
That was fucking incredible. There was no okay, he's going to run to the ropes and set it up and you can anticipate it. It was quick and he hit it perfectly.
And that's the thing. This guy is 6'2" or 6'3" or whatever he is. He's fucking 200 and enough pounds that he's got abs and a chest. It's not like the Cirque du Soleil, crew doing this shit. When something like that from that guy gets people's attention. And then Logan Paul hit a KO punch with his steel impacted hand and got a 2 count. And then LA Knight did his thing where he ran to the top rope and did a superplex and got a 2 count. Almost didn't get Logan Paul turned over, but he got him. And then suddenly LA Knight goes out on the floor and just pulls 2 of Logan Paul's stooges over the rail and starts kicking the shit out of them. But when that happens, MGK hands Logan Paul the brass knucks that are on a chain around his neck. So now he's not only carrying knucks, but he's got a big chain too. And that's why I made a note. Why are all of Logan Paul's friends people that look like they should be on probation? I think he should maybe vet his social circle more carefully. And then Logan Paul hits LA Knight with the knucks and tries a buckshot lariat, but LA Knight ducked it and hit his finish 1, 2, 3. So this was not an Eddie Graham finish. It was basic and easy, but it got a big pop because the people wanted to see LA Knight win that belt. It was a good match. It was an okay finish, but it was definitely the right result. And now they've kept LA Knight in a position where if he had failed here, I'm afraid people would have not have said yeah. But now they've got him in a position whereas they still dislike Logan Paul as much as they always did. It didn't hurt him a bit. So again, nobody had to die in the making of this motion picture, and people got exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, really good match. Logan doesn't lose anything. LA Knight needed this win. This was make or break, and now he gets a big title win in the stadium. And we'll see where they go from here. I mean, Logan Paul is not exactly full-time. We had heard rumors that he may be at some point, but it's not happened yet. And this way you get the title on someone who's on every single week.
Well, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean it's over, because obviously Logan Paul can be, incensed about this and want to get even and whatever, so they can work a little program. But now, when Logan Paul gets heat on LA Knight, it's not doing any damage to LA Knight's aura, within reason, because LA Knight's still a champion, and this fucking guy's jumping him from behind and trying to get an advantage or whatever. But LA Knight has proven himself. He won the big one. Now can he keep the big one? So that, I think it's better for our friend LA if I can be so bold as to use his first name and call him LA. I don't want to, overstep my bounds of familiarity, but...
What is it supposed to stand for? Lawrence Allen? What would LA Knight be?
One would think a Los Angeles, but then...
What if it turns out his name is Logan, too?
Well, they say that they say that he's from Maryland, but he's LA Knight, but, he could be LA Day. LA Day, LA Knight, Marianne. Same thing if he's from LA and, you got the Boogie Nights out there. Maybe he's got a large phallic symbol. And that's why they call him LA.
I don't know how this got from one place to another here. I just said, what do you think LA stands for? And you went to Boogie Nights and large phallic symbols.
I don't know, but see, that's what I'm hearing when I listen to the voices in my head that are provided to me by the Raycon everyday wireless earbuds. Now, Brian, you may think that I'm listening to you when we do these programs, but I'm not.
What?
I'm listening to music on my everyday earbuds, and I'm just speaking into the microphone, and sometimes it works out in conjunction with what you're saying, and sometimes it doesn't. Because I think most of the fans realize that if they've listened to a couple of these programs, halftime it doesn't sound like we're really talking to each other. We're saying completely different things, so therefore, that's the reason. And you can do the same thing, folks. If you don't want to listen to a friend of yours, or a family member, or a spouse, a significant other, a teacher, an authority figure, a probation officer, somebody in your life that you would just prefer that if their lips were moving, you couldn't hear a goddamn thing except what you wanted to listen to, get the Raycon everyday wireless earbuds. They've been improved. You can turn them up louder now. Drown out more of these sons of bitches. They've got a 32-hour battery life, so people could talk to you for days and you wouldn't have a goddamn clue what they're saying. They've got the new quick charge function, where if you charge it for 10 minutes, boom, you get 90 minutes of battery. And see, that's more minutes of battery than you'll get for 10 minutes of charging anywhere else, Brian. Can you deny that?
I cannot deny what I don't understand.
Well, and you've proven my point. The ergonomic design will fit the widest range of ears. Folks, no matter what, if you've got satchel ears the size of an Indian elephant, or if you've got little dainty shell-like ears, it doesn't matter. You just lube these things up and give them a good shove in with both thumbs.
No lube required.
That's right, they're pre-lubed.
There's no lube.
They come slicker than whale shit in an ice floe already, folks. When they come out of the box, hold on to them. They might just hop out of your hand and slip right down the floor.
They're easy to manage in your hand.
Well,
with your fingers.
They melt in your hand, not in your ears.
They don't melt. You never have to worry about them melting.
Well, don't put your head in the oven while you're wearing them, because we don't want to test this fucking guarantee.
Just don't put your head in the oven. Let's leave it at that.
Well, no, if you're not wearing the Raycons, you can go ahead and stick your head, because we're not going to tell you how to live your life.
We tell them how to live their life when it comes to the oven. Don't stick your head in the oven.
When it comes to the oven.
That's right.
Well, but folks, you don't need to pay the price of a brand new oven for these everyday earbuds. They're more affordable than the big hoity-toity brands, the people that put out the quality stuff. I guess I shouldn't say it like that. The high quality, well, no, I shouldn't say it like that. The big priced brands, the big names that have all of the PR behind them may not necessarily be of the high quality of the Raycon everyday wireless earbuds. So these people right here, the Raycon folks, they're not going to steer you wrong. They're only going to cheat you out of a small amount of money instead of a major amount of money.
They're not going to cheat you out of anything.
Well, not that you're aware of. And if you're not convinced right now, Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee for easy returns. If you buy, no matter how many pair of everyday earbuds you buy them, you get them, you're not happy with them, Raycon is reasonably certain they're going to be in business another 30 days, so they will give you a 30-day guarantee. If you send them back, they'll give you your money back. And after 30 days, we can't make any guarantees. Where are any of us going to be a month from now? There's no way to tell.
No, we can guarantee Raycon will be here in 30 days and into the future.
Well, they'll be here in 30 days. If you don't pay them, they'll be here in less than 30 days, knocking on your door to get their money.
Once again, let's talk about what you get when you pay your money, not people who don't pay their money.
Well, you get multi-point connectivity. You get active noise cancellation and customizable sound styles, the awareness mode, all of those things, and they're sweat resistant and weatherproof, unless you're in a tornado. And then your earbuds may still be working, but you won't fucking know it. But right now, you can go to Buy Raycon, that's BUYRAYCON, buyraycon.com/JCE, and listen to this, Brian. You're going to get 20 to 40% off site-wide. 20 to 40% off, depending on what you purchase. Site-wide, all over the site at buyraycon.com. So we've done this math many times. If you buy 3 things at 40% off, you're going to get 120% off. That's incredible. They're actually going to send you money, not to send them any money. And they're still going to send you your stuff. That's the way it works, right?
No.
Well, the math now, I've done the math. If you take 40% times 3, that's 120%, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, no math required. Just get ready to enjoy delicious audio.
Delicious? Are you going to eat it? Don't eat the earbuds. They may call them buds, but they will not blossom into broccoli sprouts.
Well,
go to buyraycon.com/JCE is what you're saying, and the site will do the math for you, is what you're telling us. And figure out how much money they're going to give you off.
You will find out at checkout.
Well, find out when they check you out how much they're going to charge to get you off, folks. At buyraycon.com/JCE today. 20 to 40% off.
That's right. Raycon.
Well, now, Brian, it was that time in the program at SummerSlam that comes at some point all the time where you get up and you go and you take a poop. And that happened when the women's title was defended between Bayley and Refrigerator Jax. And yeah, I know the show is going along smoothly and nothing's been too crummy and that type of thing, but I can't watch this giant Barco lounger fucking roam around the ring. It gives me anxiety, like the kids say. Did you watch this?
First of all, you never said these kind of things about Jerry Blackwell or even Stan Frazier. It was never, I can't watch this walking couch. You didn't say any of that shit about them.
No, because Frazier was a walking fucking appliance box.
Oh, well, that settles that. Then
that settles that. No, I always said Frazier was the shits, too. Lawler could every once in a while draw some money with him, but...
The fact that you knew she was going to win the title, did that help or hurt you watching the match?
I didn't really know, but I suspectified because of the push they've been giving her. And this whole thing with Tiffany Stratton, I was trying to think of the name of the power tool that she's named after. It wasn't Black & Decker, it's Briggs & Stratton. Maybe Tiffany Black or Tiffany Decker would have been better.
Well, you see, if you would accept their offer of being the head of creative, you could have suggested that. But instead, no, you got to stay home and hang out with the trees.
That's because they got the deal with Pepsi, and I wanted a Sprite contract.
You see, Pepsi's not the number 2 anymore.
Who is number 2?
I think I saw that it was a certain one, but before I make a fool of myself, let me double check. Of course,
2, we're taking the soft drink field we're talking about.
Dr. Pepper is now the number 2 soda.
Dr. Pepper has overtaken Pepsi?
Dr. Pepper has overtaken Pepsi.
Well, that surprises me.
Where do you stand on Coke versus Pepsi?
Well, I don't like either one because they got the caffeine and that'll poison me. But I was always a Pepsi person previously, but I, at the same time, would acknowledge the fact that Coke is the original. Coke is like Kleenex. It's ubiquitous. And I can't believe that Dr. Pepper, with that weird concoction of synthetic flavors that they've got going for them, has passed by one of the great American cola companies.
And they say he's not even a doctor.
He never passed any examination that I've heard of. I've never seen a diploma.
All right. Well, it makes me want to have a Dr. Pepper. So why don't we get back to Bayley versus Nia Jax?
Well, we'll go to the refrigerator. And
well done. Well done.
We'll just reach our hand in. And Bayley foiled a bonsai. Fridge was going for the bonsai, and Bayley got up under her and not only power bombed her off the buckles, but carried her. So I have to tip my hat that I'm not wearing here. I'll tip my headset to Bayley for that one. Hit the elbow off the top, 2 count. And then here runs out Tiffany with the briefcase. And Bayley nails her off the apron, and the refrigerator fucking stops Bayley and hits her with 2 power bombs and 2 working bonsais. At least either she likes Bayley or they gave her a talking to about the plummeting of the ass into people's rib cages. 1, 2, 3, the refrigerator wins the match for the other women's title. Sort of like the other white meat. This is the other women's title. It's the pork product of the WWE. What'd you think of this? You saw more of it than I did.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine for what it was. I did see a minute or two, and then I decided to go to bed. This is actually what chased me off of the post-show press conference. And here was the big, mean heel Nia Jax, just very happy, talking about how grateful she is for the opportunity. And so it's like you can't even say, like, okay, she's finally getting it. And she's a great monster heel. No, she immediately wanted to, like, celebrate with the world that they gave her the title at SummerSlam.
Oh, Christ.
But we'll see where they go with
she's a very polite monster.
Yes.
Is what you're saying. She's very polite. She wants to thank everybody for the opportunities they give her. Would Frankenstein have thanked the villagers for the pitchforks?
I mean, the heel went and hugged her mom at ringside and then gave a hug to the Rock's mom as well. That's usually not a heel move to start hugging senior citizens at ringside.
Hugging old women and mothers at ringside. It worked for Abdullah the Butcher for all those years. All right, let's move along because the main event was next. Not the last match, but the main event of SummerSlam was next. It was, of course, the grudge match long anticipated and awaited between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, the Scottish psychopath, with Seth Franklin Rollins doing his best job of dressing as Elton John if he was refereeing. And, I mean, this to me was the main event because they wanted to see what was going to happen with Cody and Solo, whether Roman was going to come back, what the bloodline was going to do. Nobody really believed Solo was going to win the belt. And the anticipation was more as a personal issue on McIntyre and Punk. And I thought it was perfect. As I said, they had their first match, and still the whole focus was really the interaction with Seth Rollins. So they've had their first match on a major event, and they still have all kinds of shit they can do in a rematch without Seth as referee, or both of these guys in singles matches against Seth because they set everything up. So this was, they didn't waste a thing here. It was like when they were making sausage, they got the snout in, the anus, they got everything. They didn't waste a bit of this. And you got Seth's entrance and the people chant and sing and whoa. And you got McIntyre's entrance and he's got heat and the people are on him. And then you got like Mussolini in Cleveland. And you got the big it's clobbering time. And you got the in a stadium, as Michael Cole said, the first time in 10 years that CM Punk has had a singles match on WWE television. So this was the big fight feel. And they did it perfect because, again, they have so many other directions to go and so many other things they can do, even in a rematch with Punk and Drew. The crowd was hot for it, and the little things, the little interactions. Punk threw his hoodie on Seth before the match even started, and Seth just doesn't sell it and takes it, and as he's walking to throw it out of the ring, wipes his ass with it and then throws it. But anyway, should we talk about the match now that I've droned on about the concept of they've still got every which way to go?
Yes, we should talk about the match.
We should talk about the match. They laid their shit in, and they would basically, they started out, one guy would have the momentum, would have charge of things until Seth would exert his authority, and then while they were arguing, the other guy would take over. And then when something was happening that Seth didn't particularly mind seeing, like Punk is ramming McIntyre's head into the stairs, Seth is tying his shoes. And again, I've seen these spots when I was 10, when you had a babyface as a special referee. But it works here because it's so old, it's new, and nobody has bothered to do this shit in a logical manner for so long. So anyway, so Seth is turning his back on stuff at, blah, blah, blah. And Punk is back to selling as a babyface. And he did that. Drew got heat well. And at the same time as Seth was doing some things where he's letting them play, he didn't start counting cockeyed. All the counts that he gave were normal on false finishes. So he wasn't tipping his hand that he was just going to fuck somebody outright. He's just letting them fight, right? That's what it means. And finally, at one point, Drew gets a chair and Seth sees it, and Drew tells him, hey, just turn around and let this happen. And Seth does, but then as Drew draws back, Seth grabs the chair because he can't go that far, right? It's got to be hand to hand. And then they did the spot reminiscent of Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, The Undertaker, where when Drew pie-faced Seth swung the chair and Drew ducked, and Seth almost hit Punk, but he held up. So again, this is like some Eddie Graham shit they've laid out here, where they're going back to previous matches and previous things that have happened years ago, and destroying some cliches. And then finally, Drew pulls out the bracelet that he stole from Punk, and he put it on. And he went for a kick, but Punk kicked him and started his comeback and hit the knees and the elbow off the top. And then got the vice on him, but he saw the bracelet, and the bracelet's more important to him than winning. So he pulls the bracelet off of Drew's wrist and gets it back. But Drew then has the opportunity to hit a kick and gets a 2 count. And now he's dropped the bracelet, so Seth gets the bracelet and puts it on, right? Just so nothing happens to it. But then they go back and forth, and Punk calls for the go to sleep, but when he picks up Drew, he sees Seth wearing the bracelet and drops Drew. And then Punk and Seth are arguing. And Drew blasts Punk from behind into Seth, and Seth goes to the floor. Punk foils the DDT and hits the go to sleep and covers, but there's no referee. And the fans count to 7, and Seth gets in 1, 2, and he kicks. And now Punk is yelling at Seth, and Seth's yelling back at him. We don't want you here. It's not all about you, asshole. So Punk picks Seth up and gives him the fucking GTS and takes his bracelet back from Seth. And he turns around and Drew kicks him in the balls and hits the Claymore kick. And McIntyre covers, and now Seth is coming over, and now he counts 1, 2, 3. And then he rolls out and takes his referee shirt off and throws it down and walks the back, and Drew takes the bracelet back and stands over Punk. That's the way you set up a fucking 3-way. That's the way you set up rematches. That's the way you fucking work a special referee goddamn deal. Everything made sense, and you've still got the opportunity to have Punk and Drew have a whole different match the next time they have one with a regular referee. Your thoughts, my fine feathered friend?
At the very end, I have no feathers, and you know that. You're very well aware of that.
I've looked for the feathers. They're not there.
At the very end of the match, or at the very end when Drew picked up the bracelet again, my first thought was he's going to break it. And what will that do? But instead he stored it away, so that continues. Kind of feels like in the end, Punk has to get the bracelet back, and then AJ has to slap whoever, I guess Drew, and then Larry has to piss on him while he's down to really make the comeback complete at this point. I thought it was good. I thought the match was okay. By the end, it got really clever, and I like that. And I thought, again, my personal taste, Rollins as the referee, dressed the way he was and just being a gimmick was a bit distracting from the seriousness of it. And
I held my nose on the outfit because it's Seth and it's the WWE.
But, it started off really hot with them doing a thing where you stand in the middle of the ring and you trade the blows. But I don't know. For two guys that hate each other, to me, it felt like it almost had to be amped up a little more as a match. And but I like everything they did and everywhere they went at the end, because obviously, like you said, it sets up lots of things.
Well, this was their first singles match, but they've been, because of circumstances, they've been going back and forth for 6 fucking months. So if they'd have come out there and done tables and chairs and ladders and blood and guts and, barbed wire dildos, whatever, then where do they go in a rematch? You've had the match. You've had this way the distraction of the referee being involved in the middle of it, keeping things from happening, and at the same time being a focal point. They didn't need to do all that shit because there wasn't a spot for it, and they've still got it where they can do it in the future. So I agree with you. Yes, they should do more things, but this was a great way to save that until... So imagine this, they didn't have a nuclear explosion in the first act of the play.
Do you do Punk versus Rollins as a match before you do the next Punk versus McIntyre, or how do you mix it up with these three?
I mean, I think you definitely do one of these other matches before you do another Punk and Drew. And I'm not even sure whether it's Punk and Rollins, because you could do something cleverly on TV before the next big event to build a reason for Seth versus Drew. And then, because maybe Punk is saying, if it hadn't been for that screwy referee, I wouldn't have got beat, which is kind of true. But maybe Drew takes now you're blaming the referee. Well, I could fucking kick his ass. See, I do that accent so good. And then Seth is like, fuck you. I didn't have to count at all. I could have kicked you in the head. And then you've got that. And then Punk fucks Drew out of that, but then Seth gets mad at Punk. Then you have Seth and Punk. But Drew's mad that you see where I'm going with this. You got all kinds of shit. And that's what it'll be, all kinds of shit. Anyway, would you like to move along?
No, one more thing. How did you think Punk looked in there? First time we've seen him in the ring, obviously, in quite a while, and he got hurt. In AEW, the freak injury where he jumped into the crowd and hit his foot on the barricade. And then the second injury, and then when he came into the WWE. So this is the first time we've really seen him in a while. What'd you think?
I thought he looked good. I don't think he has the cardio of 25-year-old CM Punk, nor do we all. But at the same time, again, you don't want Punk in his first match back in that long of a time, coming out off of multiple injuries where he really hasn't wrestled all that much in the last year and a half. You don't want him trying to do what fucking Edge did and jumping off the top of the cage, right, and breaking his own leg.
Well, I think he's smarter than that, but yeah.
Well, but I'm saying, yes, that's why he didn't do it, Punk is. But I'm saying you don't want him to, because again, this is major money on the line. And when you can get these people to where they're buying the tickets and they're screaming at the top of their lungs and they're reacting to everything, when the guys are having safe and entertaining matches instead of risky car crashes that they really do get hurt from, and you can't capitalize on what you've built, and it hurts the business and it hurts the company and it hurts the talent. I don't see there's anything wrong with that. If the building, the stadium in Cleveland was half full, then they may need to evaluate what they're doing. But as far as I could tell, it's pretty fucking full. And the people were screaming and cheering for things. It's what I used to tell the guys in Ring of Honor. My God, in front of 672 people in Milwaukee, and they can't scream any louder already, and you want to spike pile drive a motherfucker off the fucking roof. So there's levels to this. So I thought what they did, told the story, continued the story, gave them multiple places to go, and it took the people on a fucking ride without goddamn resorting to anybody having to go have emergency surgery afterwards, for fuck's sake. Did that answer your question?
Indeed it did. Two more matches.
Deedly doodly.
2 more matches.
Well, and that's the thing. Punk's 40 fucking whatever now, so he don't need to be doing a lot of that screwy shit, but he needs to be relying on his personality, his ability to connect with the audience, his reputation, and give them their money's worth in ways other than, taking flat back bumps on beds of fucking nails. And, fortunately, he's in the company where they're all smart enough to want to work toward that goal instead of building fake fucking walls out of drywall so they can be run through them on forklifts.
I think I can watch him and Drew McIntyre just seethe at each other every single week forever and be happy.
Yeah. Just fucking react. Just see the displeasure that each one of them possesses that the other one is alive on the planet.
It's great. You believe it because it's real.
Yeah. Hey, we can't all be bosom buddies. Speaking of the bosom buddies, it was now time for the world title to be on the line before the world title was on the line. When Gunther challenged Damian Priest, and boy, this had every opportunity to kind of be a death spot too, between what they've seen and what they're about to see. And I'm not sure that I like this as much as the normal Gunther matches, but again, they told the exact story they should tell. They did the exact finish they should do. And is it that Priest does a lot of modern stuff, the spinning and the leaping and the kicking in the air and the blocking and the parrying and the thrusting, and Gunther's such a really a great throwback to an old-fashioned Gene Kiniski kind of motherfucker, just comes straight at you? That was it a bit of a clash of styles? Normally, Gunther is timeless, but this was really, a lot of this was really modern. You know, and you didn't, and I'll say the one more thing, and then you respond. You didn't have the pure baby face and heel dynamic from the start you usually have, where Gunther is bullying a smaller guy. He was trying to make Priest his physical equal, and they transitioned Priest to a baby face by the end, but it wasn't there at the start. Now you talk.
There's no Priest-Gunther history or feud or anything that really seems like a big deal. So there was no energy, not that everything could be Punk versus McIntyre, but like that at the beginning. It was just two guys wrestling. At least Priest was wearing all black. I don't think purple has helped him. And he was wearing all black, and yeah, he wrestles a lot of
Maybe you should go to lavender.
He wrestles a lot of the modern style. He does a lot of that stuff. And Gunther, Gunther has wrestled pretty much mostly guys who wrestle that style his whole career. They also followed Punk McIntyre. They were also clearly the only match before what people thought may happen in the main event. It is kind of the death spot. You said before something interesting. You thought the finish was what it should be. Do you mean Gunther winning? Do you mean the method in which he won it? Or do you mean the Judgment Day story coming together leading to him winning?
Gunther winning is what they should have done, and Finn being responsible is what they should have done. I don't know if it could have been a little more exciting than what actually happened. But let's get, basically in the match, not really a blow by blow. That's all they did. Punches, chops, and kicks. And Gunther's chest was bleeding from one of the Jericho blade jobs, try to get one of his Japanese turtles over, but actually he was bruised up. But they laid it in and had a big guy fight, back and forth until finally they got to the story. Finn got to ringside to cheer Damian Priest on. And Priest had fired up and made a comeback and hit a couple clotheslines and a razor's edge and a choke slam and covered Gunther. And as the referee goes down to count, Finn rolls in and put Gunther's leg on the ropes and rolled back out. And then Priest gets up like, what the fuck happened? And he looks and he sees the replay on the screen, which is a nice touch because why wouldn't you? It's on a giant screen. If you're not sure what happened, they're going to show you again.
No, that was great. They had a shot behind Priest of him watching the big screen. So you all got to see how he was brought to know about this.
He was how the jig was up, as they say. And their Finn had his back turned and he's smiling and doesn't realize until he looks and realizes, oh shit, he saw that. And then Priest goes toward Finn, but Gunther got the sleeper from behind and had him down. And then Priest kind of fought out and reached out and grabbed Finn, but Gunther grabbed him from behind and powerbombed him, got the sleeper again, and put him out. And that, to me, was a little flat. Once that Priest knew that Finn had done it, he's reaching for him. If Gunther had come from behind and they had done some kind of exchange which led to Gunther either getting a pin, or even if fucking, a Priest had fucking planted him again, but Finn had given him some kind of elbow in the back or was some pinfall. When everybody just goes down and lays there for a while after a betrayal should be followed by a shocking 1, 2, 3, oh my God. Let everybody react. When you're watching a guy sitting in a hold, to me, it takes so long. They're already thinking about what happened. They're anticipating the guy's lost. It's not as big a pop when he does lose because they saw it coming. Have I made all those points halfway clear?
Halfway.
It was a little blah at the end there. But so now Priest, Dominic has pissed Priest off by turning on Rhea. Finn, for reasons I'm sure he'll explain next week on TV, did what he did when he did it. Priest loses the world title, as we predicted, to branch off into the Judgment Day. This kind of like Dusty booking, in that they don't want Priest to get even with Gunther, so Priest has somebody else to go get even with so the people don't notice that he's not getting even with Gunther. So everybody's in the right place. It was a little blasé on the end. I don't know. You tell me.
What do you think Judgment Day becomes? I mean, we'll find out soon enough, obviously. Do you think it becomes Finn leading JD and Carlito? Or does it become Dominic with Liv and all 5 of them? Then that's the new Judgment Day.
I don't know about that.
Because you got to think, is he going to just go after Finn or is Dominic tied into it? Because again, it goes into earlier. You got to assume now he was lying to Damian about knowing what Dominic was up to, right?
I think Finn, as a single and as a former champion there, and he's got a track record, he's got a nice program with Priest for Priest to redeem himself and come out ahead in the end. And then I don't see why Priest and JD wouldn't be a tag team and let Dom and Liv be on their own for a while, and potentially as they're trying to run from Rhea, then potentially you've got the mixed tag with Dom and Liv and Rhea and Priest. But does there need to be a Judgment Day? Are the people going to set the seats on fire if there's no Judgment Day?
I don't think they'll set the seats on fire. Is the Judgment Day something that people aren't sick of that you could use as a prop to fill up TV time?
I just wish they'd get rid of the clubhouse.
Well, yeah, who's paying rent on that thing?
Yeah, say, whose name is it in? Did they sign a lease?
They're still signing everything in the name of Adam Copeland, apparently.
Is there a security deposit? I bet Adam Copeland put the security deposit down when he started the whole thing. Boy, how things change. Adam Copeland starts a group called the Judgment Day, and now he's home with a broken leg working for the distant number 2 company. And a guy that was a flunky of his just lost the world title in front of 60,000 people for the big company.
And this is the moment Judgment Day found out their shirts have not been selling as well as they used to. All right, time to break them up.
But anyway, that, I don't know. But everybody's in the right place now. Gunther is the world champion, and as we said, he can get heat off of having a belt that people view as secondary by talking about how he's making it more important than the other one that they think is important. Whereas a babyface couldn't really do that.
And who's he going to feud with, Jey Uso?
I hope not, but we'll find out. Did you watch any of the Miz and R-Truth and Theory and Waller and Jelly Donut segment?
When I saw that the Miz was coming out, he was the host with R-Truth, I used that as my break. I didn't realize, and now I know for the future, every match there was like a minimum of 15 minutes between matches. And if I knew that, I would have used my time better. But I used this as a chance to go outside and, have my late night joint.
Well, you didn't make a mistake, because I speed searched the goddamn thing because I don't watch this live because there is 15 minutes in between matches. But basically, a lot of people on Twitter was, well, I can't wait to hear Cornette tear this apart. Well, I didn't even watch it, and I can still tear it apart. Because it's not even about why is Miz the host? Why is there a host? What does the host do? He came out and announced the crowd. Triple H could have done that, whatever the case. 57,791 is what they're telling people. And I guess they had to shoehorn R-Truth in here in some kind of way. But you talked about earlier, we were both talking about it, that things have improved since Vince has been gone as far as just the really silly, stupid stuff, the distasteful, whatever. But why do the goddamn musicians have to now beat up the wrestlers? Jelly Donut came in the ring and ended up choke slamming Austin Theory, who got all kinds of air for him. But just because Jelly Donut weighs 500 pounds doesn't mean that he should be treated like a goddamn physically imposing motherfucker, when in actuality, the only way he could probably hurt you is if he fell on you. And his stomach is so big he couldn't reach you if he was reaching out in front of himself, because he can't reach past the end of his fucking belly. And you could obviously outrun him. So, my point is, why do all the goddamn musicians, why do they have to let them in the ring to do wrestling moves to the wrestlers? I assume he got paid to be there. He got the promotion of singing his song on a big show. He could buy another couple of fucking face tattoos. But Jesus Christ, why do the musicians have to get to beat up the wrestlers? Does this happen in the UFC?
This is one of those things from Vince that still may carry over, where they're so happy to get anyone that they think is a mainstream celebrity or a celebrity somewhere else to be there, that they could just completely debase the heels or beat them up. At this point, Austin Theory absolutely must have pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah, he must have just goddamn horrible heat.
Because I didn't watch this, so when you said he got chokeslammed by Jelly Roll, I'm like, oh my God, like what? Again, Waller right next to him. It's Theory that is made to look like the putts.
Maybe he's one of those guys with one of those personalities.
He beat John Cena at WrestleMania.
And then Jelly Roll beat him at SummerSlam. Anyway, it was now time, ladies and gentlemen, for the last match of the evening. For the WWE Undisputed, well, it's actually disputed by the guy that has the other title, but for the WWE title, the big one, Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa, the new tribal chief, and they gave the big entrance to Solo, but then they went back in the back and they went all the way to Cody's bus. The camera's on the bus, and watch him get off the bus and tip the bus driver or what, and be handed the leash of his dog Pharaoh,
who wasn't allowed on the bus.
Apparently not, because he was already standing out there waiting for him. But it was not. He kissed Pharaoh on the head. See, I love a man who loves his dog. And he's walking Pharaoh through. Now, the only thing is, he didn't come out with Pharaoh out in the building. So why was he walking Pharaoh toward? Couldn't he have just left Pharaoh to watch the monitor like the rest of the family? But anyway, here's the story of the entrance is, as he's walking through the back leading the dog, he looks over to the left and he sees Arn Anderson. And he's, what? You mean to tell me that's when Cody first realized that one of his oldest friends was in the building? Just hanging out, just there leisurely in a polo shirt.
He was surprised he wasn't in catering.
Well, he looked like he had been there. And Arn gave him a pep talk that was not well mic'd, and Arn doesn't have the projection that he used to have in his voice, and he told Cody that he still has friends, they're on the way. You can do that type of thing. It was a pep talk. I understand it. It was, again, another sign of the new administration, the new ownership, that Arn was there to begin with. And he is an important figure in Cody's life and background. And he has been talked about. But this wasn't a stirring, go out there and win one for the Gipper type of speech that you would have thought maybe in that environment. Should they have done that on the bus where it was a little more intimate, you could hear better?
It may have been something for like the moment before Cody leaves the bus, he gets to hear some words from Arn, but, Arn's not really a big rah-rah guy. You're not going to get that from him. It's not like he's going to stand there like Jimmy Hart and, jump in the background and yell, go get him, go! But maybe you need that. Maybe you needed that.
A stirring motivational speech like the Enforcer in the Day would have given. But the people popped when they saw him on the screen.
They ran out of time, though. Part 2 of the speech was, why did you bring your dog if you're going to have to just give him to this other guy in a minute?
Yeah, well, and Pharaoh's being passed around, for heaven's sake, like an unwanted dog at the pound over and over before this bit. Anyway, and they said it was his last trip on the road. What, are they retiring the dog? The dog has decided to retire? I didn't hear the explanation for why the announcer said it was his last trip with Cody. They couldn't come to terms on a new contract with Pharaoh?
Are they putting Pharaoh down? Yeah, really? Why'd they say that?
Oh, come on. No, he looked in the
what the hell does that mean?
Of life.
Well, what the hell did they say that for then?
Anyway, he wasn't going to take a trip with him on the road anymore. Maybe Brandy's putting her foot down and Pharaoh's too old for this shit.
Oh, so there's like a last hurrah.
A final farewell to Pharaoh. Anyhow, Cody got a big entrance. He's over. The bloodline rules, the WWE title, Cody, Solo, here we go. And this wasn't so much of a match as an Eddie Graham finish on steroids put on a loop. They sat down and worked on this one. It was a giant performance piece where they had to make it bloodline rules, basically no rules, so that everybody could, because they gave the people every kind of twist and turn and up and down and run in and whatever that they could. But there would have been no way to figure out how to do this in a regular match. So they had to do what they did. And before the run-in started happening, I just had observations. One, Solo is the younger brother of both the Usos, right?
Solo is the younger brother of the Usos, correct?
Yes. He's the best worker of the bunch of them.
Oh, by far. He's solid. He lays his stuff in. There aren't as many of the holes that you point out with Jey Uso, especially with Jimmy Uso too. You don't see that with Solo.
He's not as awkward with the kicks and the movements. You're not distracted because he's wearing tennis shoes and baggy shit. He's not open-handed slapping people. And he does different stuff. And before I've mentioned that I thought Solo was sometimes limited in what he was doing, but Cody obviously was the captain here and either brought out more in him or he's trying to expand his repertoire. But the Samoan drop that he does is more like a Samoan release suplex, where instead of coming flat down on the guy like Jacob does, he's fucking boosting him and throwing him. But his in-ring is coming along, and I think his confidence is coming along. And I think he did more different stuff here than any match I've seen of him or the Usos maybe put together. But finally, to start the run-ins, Cody hit a big superplex and both sold it. And they went into a yay-boo exchange. And then Cody fired up and hit the crossroads. And right then, here comes Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. And you know what I'm about to say. It's gotten to be...
I love it. He's my favorite. Look, before you insult him or say anything.
All right.
Tongaloa, when he came out there, I'm thinking, oh, right, there's been all these past incidents that seem ridiculous, but when you put them all together, it's quite the picture. Now he has an eye patch. All I'm thinking is, wouldn't it be funny if he just doesn't go the right way because of the eye patch?
If it threw off his depth perception. Because we're talking about a guy with two eyes that missed a stationary nut shot. That whiffed a guy, hitting a guy in the balls, and the guy wasn't moving. And so in this one, he comes in and they hold Cody, and he's going to try to run and spear Cody backwards kind of into the turnbuckles. And he ran into Cody and drove him the wrong way. He missed the corner of the ring and he just drove him into the ropes. And you could see Cody looking back like, where am I fucking going? And then he had to shove him back in the fucking corner so that Tama Tonga could run and do whatever he was good at. But he missed the fucking turnbuckles in the corner of the ring. Cody was going backwards and he knew he was going the wrong way. And that's the first thing you see, the first thing he does.
I'm sitting here waiting for it and watching for it, and then he does it right in front of you. It's almost like you don't believe it. No, how did he? I've never seen anyone miss the turnbuckle. I've never seen anyone miss the turnbuckle. He missed the corner. How do you miss the corner?
It wasn't even there. There was 3 turnbuckles to choose from. He missed all of them by 5 feet to the right. But then the Tongas beat up Cody and Solo covers him, but he gets 2 count. So the Tongas get back on Cody, but then Owens' music plays and Kevin Owens comes in and gets a big fight. But they get Owens down because they're the numbers advantage. And then Orton music plays. And when Orton comes down to make this big save, did you see him coming down slapping fans' hands on either side of the entranceway?
Yeah. Also, both guys are in their gear. Do you think it would have had more impact if they ran out there in street clothes? They weren't working.
Well, with Owens, anything that you can do to cover up his body, I'm in favor of. But I've mentioned before, Orton never goes out there and he wants to look like a star. Anytime he goes out in front of people, he's always dressed in gear. But if I would have been wondering if they were my friends, where they were fucking hiding for the 2 minutes that these guys were beating the shit out of me before they decided to play their music and come out and help.
Well, Arn said they were on the way.
Well, goddamn, would they come in separate cars? Because one got there before the other one did.
Well, they had to wait for their music to get queued up.
Well, no, one guy had to shake some hands on the way down because he's running for office.
The only thing better than that was when Jeff Hardy made his AEW debut to save Matt Hardy and he stopped to dance.
He stopped to dance. But anyway, after shaking the fans' hands, Orton got in and cleared the ring and power slammed Solo. And then Owens went to the top and swanton Solo. And then Cody crossroads did Solo and got a 2 count. And it was a weak kick out. And I don't know what the fans went, because it looked like this guy, big move, this guy, big move. Then the champion, big finish, boom. It was a weak kick out and the people didn't see it and there wasn't a lot of reaction. He either needed to kick out strong or maybe they didn't need to do that there. But at that point, Ortons and Owens, the team of Ortons and Owens chased the Tongans out of the building. They fought off, Brian. See, that was Harley's allergy cough. She's much better now.
Well, they fought out, not fought off.
Well, they fought off, they fought out. They fought off, they went away. Off with you, off with their heads. So then Cody throws the stairs in the ring, and he hits Solo with them once, and he hits him twice. And he goes, but now he's just hit this guy with the stairs twice, and he goes for the big third one, and Solo comes with a spear, spears him out from under the stairs, 2 count. Great facials on both, by the way, when they're selling. It just sometimes you would think maybe one shot with the stairs may have worked. Solo missed the running ass in the corner on the stairs when Cody moved. And then Cody hit the crossroads twice, and he was going for the 3rd time. But you know who's been unaccounted for? Oh, the werewolf.
Was that the werewolf? I thought it sounded like Lassie.
It's the werewolf. It's the werewolf. Wolfman Jack.
Is that Wolfman Jack? Yeah, what are you doing?
That's who it is. That's what Jacob Fatu sounds like. He sounds like Wolfman Jack. Playing mounds of said, you got the money, honey, I got the time. And Fatu levels Cody Rhodes and hits the springing moonsault and puts Solo on top of Cody. 2 count. Holy shit. So then Solo says to Fatu, put him through the table. And Fatu puts Cody on the announce desk, clears it off. Who puts their desk back together? I saw the desk cleared off at least 3 times, right? And then the next time somebody goes to do it, all the monitors are back, the notes, the wiring, everything's right there. They sweep it all off again. Do they have a desk reassembler over to the side? Or do you think each announcer has to fend for themselves?
You grab a leg and I grab a leg? No, they have to have someone there.
You grab a leg and I grab a leg, honey. You grab a leg and I grab a leg. So he cleared off the desk of the thing, and he goes to the top rope, and he splashes Cody through the table. But instantly, Jacob Fatu grabs his left leg. I believe it was his left leg. And he's screaming, and he did an incredible job of selling it. It looks like he's either had a leg broken or broken somebody's leg before. Because he did a fantastic fucking sell job. Many people were convinced that he was goddamn fucked up.
Well, apparently he was seen around today in a walking boot.
And I'm proud of him for that too. That's the modern day equivalent of the neck brace. Because, maybe we're going to find out that he broke a bone or two. But what I'm saying is there was a need, because of what was going to happen next, for Jacob Fatu to be rendered in compos mentis, rendered irrelevant there. They couldn't, with the push they're giving him and the build they're giving him, they couldn't have somebody else take him out that would destroy his aura of danger and potential invincibility, but they couldn't have him up and about for what was about to go on. And what is the perfect compromise? He hurts himself in the act of hurting someone else. And then he can't get back in and interfere in what's going to go on. So I say bravo. Mwah, chef's kiss to that fucking leg cell. And then when they roll Cody back in the ring, Solo fucking splashes him off the top rope and gets a 2 count. Cody is goddamn indestructible, but at least he's not 132 pounds like Darby Allin. And then Cody foils the spike that Solo tries and kicks him and hits a cutter on him, and both of them are down, and you think, well, what in the world else can happen? And suddenly the opening drum beats of Roman Reigns' music hits, and the fans in that fucking stadium go absolutely batshit insane. And I'm saying, what? It's like they just saw their mother return from a fucking lunar fucking landing that didn't go well. Holy shit, did you hear that fucking pop erupt when they all knew instantly what that fucking drum roll meant?
Yeah, no, it was a major pop, and, people were hoping for it, and they finally got what they were hoping for.
Oh, they've been chanting for We Want Roman, and since the way that he left at WrestleMania, let's say April, May, June, July, so he's been gone for 4 months. The time is right. They're ready for it. Boom. They see the screen. They know it's him. And then here he comes, and he's walking to the ring with the game face on. And he fucking slides in. And even the announcer going like, yeah, but who's he? Because he's got the history with Cody. And he's obviously not going to be happy with Solo and the way he's been running his pie hole around the place. And he settles things instantly. There wasn't a big milk, which I was glad of because it was there. He Superman punches Solo and hits Solo with a fucking spear. Boom, and gets a big pop. And then looks at Cody and steps out of the ring and starts walking to the back. And Cody grabs Solo and hits the crossroads. Boom, 1, 2, 3. And then Roman looks back over his shoulder at Cody, and Cody's looking at Roman. And one of them was looking back to see if you were looking back to see if I was looking back to see if you were looking back at me. But boy, and that's why Jacob Fatu, you still don't know what will happen physically when Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns get mixed in with each other. And Jacob Fatu had a good reason for not getting in the way of Roman Reigns doing what he did to Solo and Cody winning the match. He was taken out of the equation. So everything fell right into place perfectly, but we still didn't answer questions that it was too early to answer. What can Solo and Roman do to each other? And et cetera, et cetera.
Do you think Heyman should have come out with Roman in a wheelchair? He could have just pointed. Them, him, he did it.
Well, now see, this is perfect because why Roman is in no danger right now. Roman was in control of the situation. If Heyman had showed up, you've still got another great return. If Roman can be put in a place of jeopardy that not that Heyman can come and physically, rescue him from, but that Heyman can do a wise man thing and put him, maybe the wise man thing is the wise man is the one that puts Roman and Cody finally together as a team against Solo and Jacob. And again, so many ways to go. And now, how many goddamn top-level baby faces do they have in that company now that Roman has come back in that fashion? You've got Cody Rhodes, you've got Kevin Owens, you've got Roman Reigns, you've got LA Knight. And, of course, Randy Orton, who at some point probably over the next run of big shows in Saudi Arabia, $100 million spectaculars, will stab Cody Rhodes in the back and be one of the hottest heels in the company. But they've got mega baby faces now. It's insane.
Well, that was the insanity known as SummerSlam.
And again, I joke that, yeah, they may be making more money these days, but back then we had the crowds. Now they've got the fucking crowds too. 60,000 people in Cleveland ain't nothing to sneeze at. Cleveland. Have you ever, I spent a month there one night. I'm telling you, that is not
It makes you wonder what Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn think, because they can't just completely ignore what's happening. The fact that things are so hot, they've maintained it. They started advertising it, like I told you, the John Cena tour, the year-long tour. I mean, they've got everything set up for another hot run, or for this hot run to continue. It's crazy to think about. You know, you would never really thought. I mean, I guess a lot of people thought things would improve when Vince was gone, but the fact that business, it's through the roof. It could almost not get any hotter right now.
Well, actually, it could, because they sold out a stadium in fucking Cleveland without John Cena or Randy Orton advertised or Kevin Owens advertised or Roman Reigns advertised or Brock Lesnar advertised. Jesus, and The Rock. They've still got The Rock.
Yeah, and they've probably got at least one more good run out of him before the big scandal that takes him down forever.
And the mixed tag team match with Ata. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, my God, it can get bigger. What the fuck? Anyway. And for the people who think we're blowing them, no, we still recognize when shit sucks, and much of it does, especially on the regular weekly television.
I still don't want to watch Raw, ladies and gentlemen.
No, but goddamn, and that's part of the thing, is our astonishment that they've got the personalities so over that they can do as little as they do and sell as much as they sell. So that was indeed SummerSlam, one for the ages, and boy, howdy. It's going to be probably another month or two until they get $50 million from Saudi Arabia or fucking put 30,000 people in a building somewhere.
Wait until they go to London and break the Wembley record. That's going to be the big moment.
Oh, God. 2 nights in a row. Tony's going to he's going to just fucking, his head will explode when they go there and 2 nights in a row beat his single attendance record. I'm wondering if, they may sell out the pay-per-view.
I don't think it works like that.
No, that's going to be, the pay-per-view will be sold out. Unless you get it early, you will not be able to order the pay-per-view anywhere in the world. That will be sold out as well.
I don't know about that, but that was SummerSlam, and that was the drive-thru. This is not the drive-thru.
No, this is the experience. You're done with the whole thing, aren't you? You're just fed up with it.
No, I'm having a great time.
Oh, well, it sounds like it. Well, folks, if you're having a great time, then you're going to want to come back and have some more of those times. So come back here next week on The Experience. Come back in a few days on The Drive-Thru. We're going to talk about all kinds of things and even more. And until then, for Grumpy Brian, I'm Jazz and Jimmy. Thank you, fuck you, and bye-bye, everybody. Dun, 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 dun.